Sit back and get ready to have the most fun you ever had with an electronic device. All right, everybody, welcome out to the Get On With It Sports Show. It is Wednesday, January the 26th, 2022. Jersey Johnny coming at you. With me, as always, is none other than Mr. Harry Lug Nutz. Say hello, Harry.
Hi, Harry. How are you? Is it still Wednesday?
It's still Wednesday. Like it's still Wednesday. It's approaching Thursday, but it's still Wednesday.
Approaching Thursday somewhere.
Yeah, yes. Somewhere. I think it's already.
Our listeners in Australia. Yes.
It's almost Friday in Australia. I mean,
is it? Yes.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. Maybe. No, at least almost lunchtime. One or the other. So.
It's almost Vegemite hour.
Vegemite hour. Time for a Vegemite sandwich. How are you today?
I'm good. You know.
Pete will be along momentarily. He got tied up on the LIE or something like that. I think physically tied up. It was like somebody tied him up on the LIE. But
it's one of the options on his OnlyFans page.
Well, exactly. He was doing an OnlyFans shoot, and he got a little.
I mean, for the amount of money that he asks, I would, be late for this podcast too. For what he gets for that.
For what he gets for those shows. Right. Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
Yeah, he likes to be rigged.
Yes.
He's not the rigger. He's the riggy.
Riggy. Yes, he's right. Riggy. Yeah.
Yes. Pete Riggy.
Pete Riggy.
Yes. We'll have to ask him what his favorite knot is when he gets back.
I think it would be the bowling. Actually, the bowling on a bite, maybe.
All right. Too much knot humor.
Little knot humor. So anyway. All right. So on that note, we derailed it 2 minutes in. What's new? I mean, other than there was voting yesterday, right? For something went on.
Yeah, this Baseball Hall of Fame, and it looks like some of the best players, maybe in the history of the game, are never going to get in that little shack in Cooperstown.
Yeah.
But
hey. Let's take a look at what the voting was like here. This was some of the voting right here. All right, so we got David Ortiz, Big Papi, 77.9% of the vote. Right?
So he snuck in.
You need 75%. So,
yes.
Right. So he got 77.9. He snuck in. Barry Bonds, 66%, missed it, and this was his 10th year of eligibility, so he's done.
Wow.
Unless it goes special,
in
special later on, a legacy or whatever they call that. Roger Clemens, same thing, 10th year of eligibility, 65.2, did not get in. Scott Rowland, 63.2. Kurt Schilling was also in his 10th year of eligibility, 58.6. Not even as close as Clemens and Bonds.
Now, stop there for a second.
Sure.
Okay. David Ortiz did have a positive steroid drug test in his history.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, he did.
Barry Bonds, we all know about. Roger Clemens, we all know about. Scott Rowland. Was Scott Rowland ever tied up in any sort of controversy with steroids?
To the best of my knowledge, no, but I can't speak to 100% on that.
Kurt Schilling is at 58.6% because of who Kurt Schilling is and not his performance on the field.
It has nothing to do with his performance on the field. It's all about his personal
So keep
attitude.
going. Keep going.
Right. Todd Helton, 52%. Billy Wagner, 51%.
Yes.
More on Billy Wagner in a minute. I got another graphic for you. Andrew Jones, 41.1%. Gary Sheffield, 40.6%. And A-Rod, Alex Rodriguez, probably, one of the best players of all time.
Top 10 baseball players of all time.
Top 10 baseball player of all time, 34.3%. Now, that was his first year of eligibility.
Let's compare him to what was Derek Jeter's percentage in his first year of eligibility.
He missed 100% by one vote.
Yeah. Okay. So we're obviously Ortiz, Bonds, Clemens, Schilling. Okay, we're A-Rod. We're going to put them on the list. I think Sheffield's is more of a bubble player. Andrew Jones, Billy Wagner, same thing. Right. Todd Helton. Right. Now, here's my take on Todd Helton.
Okay.
If Todd Helton played for the Dodgers or the Yankees or the Mets or the
in.
Reds or any other team other than maybe the Diamondbacks or I don't know. Why is Todd Helton not getting voted into the Hall of Fame? Explain this to me.
Because he didn't play for the Yankees or the Mets or the Red Sox.
But rather than it being an issue of, okay, small market bias, or I think it's an actual bias against the Colorado Rockies. I think that very exaggerated sort of ideology that Rockies players' numbers are elevated due to the altitude is hurting Todd Helton. Now, Todd Helton did have to play half of his games, to the best of my knowledge, on the road. So if you really look at,
they don't take the atmospheric pressure of Coors Field with them on the road, do they?
Out of anybody on that list, if you want to penalize people for what they did off the field, or what they did to enhance their performance, or their lack of sort of professionalism, that's fine. Todd Helton, if you were to give people props for that, would rise to the top of the list. He's a choir boy. He's never done anything wrong in his professional career.
Correct.
Now, and obviously there's a lot of people on the list. It's certainly aren't being boosted by their postseason performance.
Right.
So the Todd Helton just is a head scratcher. It's a head scratcher, but there's been many of these over the years. And the fact that David Ortiz snuck in by 2 percentage points, is there some sort of power that these writers have? Do they feel really good about themselves? Is it job security? What is this? Do we need to relook at the group of people voting for the Hall of Fame?
I absolutely agree with that 100%. I think that we actually need to. I think there needs to be a cross section, not just writers, not just players, not just people from the Hall of Fame, not just ownership or players association or whatever you want to do. I think there needs to be a cross section of everybody. You take writers, okay, most of whom, and some of whom probably, at least have played in rec leagues or high school, maybe some in college or whatever, but they're completely in control of who gets into the Baseball Hall of Fame. Other than the fact that they watch and write, what's their credentials for picking those players? I mean, and I'm not saying they shouldn't, but I'm not saying they shouldn't only. It shouldn't only be them. There should be other people from other walks of, factions of, what have you.
There should be more diversity.
It should be more diversity. Thank you. There should be more diversity in the voting. Absolutely. And when I say that, I mean, players association, ownership, management, front office people, people from the hall, and writers. Put them all together. All right. That's where you're going to get. That's where it's going to be fair. Writers. Why just writers? Why? Where did that even? I really want to. I don't even know. I mean, I've read some stuff, but I haven't read it all. I want to know why. And there's of course the story back in the day of whatever happened back in the 30s and all of that stuff, and why the writers were in charge of it. But why has it stayed with it? There's a lot of things that were archaic that have changed over the years because they were too archaic. This is one of them that hasn't. Why does it have to continue down this road? I don't know. I don't agree with a lot of it. Like for instance, I mean, here, I'll throw this up. Now you can say what you want about Barry Bonds, okay? And I talked to a couple people. I was talking to a few people today, actually, and last night. If Barry Bonds stopped playing baseball before he started enhancing his performance, okay, then if he just stopped then, he'd be in the Hall of Fame.
Here's my argument.
Am I right or wrong?
I agree. So would A-Rod.
Right.
So would Clemens.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's my question mark with all of that is that I get it. I think for a lot of players and a lot of records, the home run record, Hank Aaron is the all-time home run leader. No one,
right.
Roger Maris is the single season. What happened with McGuire and Sosa and Bonds and all of these people during that era, that's, I think, completely different than what an Alex Rodriguez or a Curt Schilling or an Andy Pettitte or a Roger Clemens was able to do. Now, to their credit, Bonds and A-Rod and Sosa and McGuire and all the other meathead home run hitters of that period were also going against people who were taking performance-enhancing drugs.
Right.
They
were swinging the bat against pitchers that were. Yeah.
Yes. Now,
when Bonds was standing at the plate and Roger Clemens was pitching the ball, shouldn't that equal out?
Right. Here's my take, though, on a bunch of this: is that yes, performance. Look, people are taking performance-enhancing drugs right now in every sport. It's just that some are legal and some aren't legal.
Right.
Okay. Right. There's also a difference between those who have taken performance-enhancing drugs to dramatically change their physique, their strength, and their power, a la Bonds.
Right.
Okay. Clemens was not taking steroids to be able to bench press 550.
Right.
He was taking steroids so that he could recover more quickly from injuries.
Right.
Now, is that cheating? Sure. By the letter of the law, it was. Mm-hmm. But there are, I think you have to look at the different circumstances for this. And you have to also understand that there's a bunch of guys that they were playing against who aren't even bubble players for the Hall of Fame who were also doing it. And you had a number of players throughout the history of that era who were doing that. Right. And who knows what players were taking beforehand that were so-called performance enhancing where it wasn't tested.
Right.
You know?
Exactly. Agreed. 100%. So I don't get it. Well, there's a couple graphics I want to throw up really quick. This one.
Speaking of Barry Bonds.
Bonds.
He just joined us on the podcast.
Hey, Mr. Bonds, how are you?
We heard you were tied up and that your so-called
you were tied up bondage wise for your OnlyFans page. That's why you were.
And your client could not remember how to undo the knot.
As far as I know, that was flaxseed oil and nothing but flaxseed oil.
That's right.
That's what you were told. That's what
I was told, and that's
he admitted to taking steroids in the 90s, but his performance actually went down.
Yeah, right down.
It just wasn't what made me big.
Yeah. It made him tired.
It made me tired.
It made him tired. Here's a perfect example right there. Made him tired.
We got that. I'd look exactly the same, only fat.
Actually, that's Pete on the left prior to steroids, and on the right after steroids.
The 25-year challenge.
There you go.
The 25-year Twinkie challenge.
There you go.
That's a picture of Pete with the guy who hit Osama bin Laden for 9 years.
So talking baseball Hall of Fame.
Yeah, we're talking baseball Hall of Fame.
What's the consensus?
Well, the consensus is
the door's open for PED guys, right?
Yeah, well,
I don't know. What's your
about
take?
that? I mean, it's kind of a back and forth, right? Let me throw this graphic up really quick. We're talking about Bonds. Let me throw it up. Barry Bonds, 14-time All-Star, 7-time National League MVP, 8-time Gold Glove Award winner, 12-time Silver Slugger Award winner, career Major League Baseball leader with 762 home runs. Yeah, I know. Well, career Major League walks leader with 2,558, single-season home run leader, 73, and only player with 500 home runs and 500 stolen bases.
Okay, let me just stop for 1 second to say something. 7-time National League MVP.
7 times.
7.
Mm-hmm.
So the
even
argument,
even if you take his RBIs and his home runs and cut them in half,
right.
He's still a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, and a lot of people say, and I think rightfully so, he was a Hall of Famer before supposedly he ever used the
right. And I said that
whatever.
before. I said that if he stopped playing baseball before he took one performance enhancing drug, he would have been in the Hall of Fame.
Did Bonds ever win a World Series? He never won a World Series, did he?
No, I don't think so.
No.
As a matter of fact, he was pretty lousy in the postseason for a good portion of his career.
Right.
Here's the thing, though, with the PEDs, right? Because Poppy's in now, right?
And Poppy tested positive.
He tested positive. So here's my point. As far as I understand, the people who vote are, I wouldn't say they're obligated, but they are asked, I believe, to consider matters of character and the like as part of their voting process.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
how do you explain Todd Helton?
Well, listen, I think there are anomalies, right? You know, Ty Cobb was a son of a bitch.
Right.
No, I mean the opposite with Helton.
Guys that had great
choir boys who hit 320 lifetime.
Yeah, well, listen, that's
Well, he played in Denver, right? I mean, come on.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
There's no rhyme or reason to it. But my point is, because a lot of
You
people
should
think,
hit over 400 in Denver. You'll kick it in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
That's
well,
the,
what did he?
Well, he did a few times, almost.
Yeah, almost.
In Denver.
But they say, well, Poppy's in, so now all the steroid guys can get in. You can't use that as an excuse anymore.
Well,
I don't think that's true.
No,
if you're considering matters of character.
I think I read it the other way. The fact that Alex Rodriguez only got John, put that graphic up of what people.
Sure.
Okay.
So A-Rod only got 34.3%. And now this is his first year too. He's got 9 more years to be shut out.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, but that's what they said about Bonds and Clemens, and now they have 0 more years to be shut out,
right.
other than by the senior committee or whatever.
What was Clemens? What was Bonds and Clemens their first year? Was it this high?
I don't know. It was it was lower than that. It wasn't as low as A-Rod, but it was lower.
Why do we have to go this fucking trade? You know, why does it take? Why do you have to change your mind over 10 years? What's changing in 10 years? Mm-hmm. This is a fucking charade.
I know.
Take
and
a
it's
look
not
at
like
their
it's
stats,
not like
make
they wanted
a decision and put them in.
It's not like they wanted to keep. Okay, we can't put too many in, and we don't want to put 10 people in 1 year, right? They got one guy going in. If for some reason Big Papi got 3 votes less, or 4 or 5, whatever it was, to get him under 75, there'd be nobody going in the Hall of Fame.
Put that list up again, please.
Sure.
Okay, David Ortiz, Hall of Famer, in. Barry Bonds, in. Roger Clemens, in. Scott Rowland, bubble. Kurt Schilling, in. Todd Helton, in. Billy Wagner, bubble. Andrew Jones, bubble. Gary Sheffield, bubble. Alex Rodriguez, no doubt, in. Done. See you next time.
Right.
But the 3 biggest no doubt ins are also steroid guys.
Right.
So again, that's
the 4 biggest no doubt ins. 3 of them are steroid guys, and 1 of them just an asshole.
Right.
Well, Schilling is, out of all of those guys, Schilling's, I think the eye test with Schilling for me, and what he did in the postseason, and what he did late, over the course of his career, right. The longevity of his career, to me that all bodes to him. But I will concede, Schilling is not a no-brainer, as I think Clemens, Bonds.
Oh, he's not as no. He's not as high on the list. Yeah. No, he should be in the Hall of Fame, but he's not as definite as.
You have to make more of an argument against him.
Right.
He's in, but you could count this against him.
Bonds, Clemens, and A-Rod are ahead of him when it comes to that.
Well,
sure.
Right.
Kurt Schilling has a platform to show his personality, and I'm not going to judge it. It's the same thing with Ted Nugent in the Rock. Ted Nugent, let's face it, should probably be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame over El DeBarge, okay, or whoever else has crept in there over the years. Right. Now, Ted Nugent is I'm not going to judge him on what he believes in his personal life, but the same thing with Kurt Schilling.
It's not like you said.
Let me let everybody in on a little secret. There's a lot of
Schilling and Ted Nugent are the same person.
There's a lot. There are a lot of people who think just like Kurt Schilling, who are darlings of the media, who just don't voice it. Right. There are a lot of mostly white, conservative, super right-wing ex-baseball, football, basketball players who are out there right now who just have not been outed in their beliefs. Mm-hmm. Okay?
Right.
Look at who they put their money towards and who they support. So we can't dig into that. We just can't.
Well, it's like I was going to say, Ted Nugent, when it comes to, like, you brought it up, so I'll just say it. Like, it's not the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame isn't the rock and roll and good and somebody that agrees with everything we think Hall of Fame.
Right.
It's the
it's
based on right.
It shouldn't be called the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Well, at this point, it's the Music Hall of Fame.
Right. If you want to put all those people in there, then fine. I have no problem with that.
Ted Nugent is rock and roll. I mean, there's no other description for him.
Yeah. You see him in a loincloth singing Wango Tango. It's not easy listening
music. It's not all
music.
country. He's not emo.
No. But listen, I would have more of a disagreement that he belongs in the Hall of Fame than he's rock and roll. He's certainly rock and roll. I don't think he's that. He never really did much for me, and that was way before his politics, but that's my personal opinion.
But he doesn't do much for me either, but he does as much for me as the Go-Go's.
Does more than El DeBarge.
Who I think belong in there.
Right.
I mean, what he did before he was singing, what he did with the Asbury Jukes was revolutionary as a guitar player. Revolutionary.
Yeah.
All right. Again, there's just as many Ted Nugent songs that I will change the channel on, as there are ELO songs.
What about what he did? What about what he did in the late '80s? What was that group?
I don't know. White Stripe or something.
No, that wasn't White Stripe. It wasn't
White Lion.
White Yankees.
Night Ranger.
Damn Yankees.
Damn Night
Damn
Ranger.
Yankees.
Look,
White Yankees.
Now
it's everything white. White Ranger, White Lion, White Yankees.
Night Ranger definitely.
Damn
belongs
Yankees.
in there. But,
White Night Ranger does.
If the Go-Go's belong in, the Night Ranger
then
belongs.
Sister
Anyway, we got
I
Sister
want
Christian's
to
a
go on
rocking
the record.
song.
I am not disparaging the Go-Go's. I like the Go-Go's.
Oh,
but what I'm saying is that there's just as much.
Right.
To my point is Curt Schilling is the Ted Nugent of the baseball hall.
There are a lot of other athletes out there who feel the same way that Curt Schilling does. They just don't go around talking about it because
it's bad for their careers.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because they're playing in sports that are predominantly minority. Let's face it. The only sport, is there any sport left that's majority white besides tennis?
Hockey.
So,
but here's the question though: do the voters have a responsibility to look at that sort of thing about them?
No,
I don't think they should.
Not unless it's directly baseball related.
I said before you came on, Pete, I said
did
that
he throw a firebomb into the stands during a game after getting pulled? No.
I said before you came on, Pete, I said that I honestly think there should be a better cross section of voters, not just 100% baseball writers. The writers, people from the Hall of Fame, players.
My thing is, as long as you did not act like Ron Artest, then it shouldn't be held against you.
Yeah, I was thinking about that today. I don't know who else you bring into the fold. You certainly can't bring the fans into the fold.
No. I mean, players, or people from the, maybe, but everybody's voted on too. It's not just like who is voting? You can vote and you can vote and you can.
We don't know. Right? Do we know exactly who's voted?
It's the same voter. It's the same voters every year. I mean,
Well, you have to write about baseball for 10 straight years. So there's a couple of criteria.
What's the average age of a Hall of Fame ballot giver?
Yeah.
What's the average age?
Kind of old.
Yeah, I would say between 50s and 60s, probably. Even maybe
a
little older. Maybe.
Yeah, listen, you got
not quite as old as the Senate, but maybe as old as the House of Representatives.
There you go.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
Let me throw up let me throw up two other graphics, three other really quick.
Well, let me just one more thing about that is with the 10-year rule and the degradation of print media. You might have a hard time finding guys who write about baseball for 10 straight years.
Oh, there's plenty of idiots on podcasts like us.
Well, no, but I mean, they're
going to ask us to vote next year.
These are legitimate.
I just voted. Done.
Supposed to be legitimate media people, not podcasters.
So but podcasting is legitimate media, not us, but other.
Well,
what I'm saying is that
this is
media,
the baseball writers
media has
of
just
America.
shifted. There's plenty of
it's legitimate media, and we're legitimate media. We're just pretty low on the totem.
They're writing about baseball or talking about baseball. They're just not doing it in print media.
No, but this is the baseball writers, not the baseball podcasters.
I know that's the problem.
So
they're going to have
the Baseball Podcasters Association, right? Let's start the Baseball Podcasters.
Then you got to have a really, if you're going to invite,
Mad Dog
meetings and coffee and donuts. It's a whole thing. It's like
Did Mad Dog Russo vote this year?
I don't know. Is he a writer? He's a baseball talker, though. He's not.
He knows more than any of the writers.
Well, but he's not a writer, though, is he?
That's the problem.
Yeah, but he just vote for San Francisco guys all the time.
He would just then Bonds would be in if that was the case.
No, he actually was on the record as saying Bonds shouldn't be in.
Mad Dog said Bonds shouldn't be in.
He was on First Take this morning.
Oh, wow. Here, let me throw this up. Speaking of Bonds again, right? David Ortiz career on base percentage 380. Barry Bonds' career on base percentage, if you turned all of his 762, it should be 3, home runs into outs, his career OBP would be 384. So that's one thing there.
Well, no one is arguing against his credentials, baseball stats. I don't think that's.
I had that graphic. I wanted to put it up.
Yeah, it's a question of character and what counts as character.
No. I agree 100% with you. I do.
Well, let me ask you guys this.
Right.
Pete Rose, one of the all-time greats ever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bet on baseball,
right,
and was unrepentant about it for a long, long time,
right.
Obviously, now I would make the argument that is less of a less terrible character trait.
Less an egregious.
Less egregious. Thank you.
There you go.
Than taking steroids.
Yep. I agree with that.
So is that a case where, because I firmly believe that if you're in the Hall of Fame, it
wasn't a Black Sox scandal again. He just bet on baseball.
No, I think it should be for what you do on the field, and obviously what these guys, we're talking about these guys, but I don't know. Does it really have to be a complete blanket? In other words, if you're great on the field, doesn't matter what you do. Right. If you kill somebody, if you take steroids, if you bet on baseball, well, if you're great, you get in.
If you kill somebody, you do your time, and then you become a announcer.
Well, that's true, but that's my point. Is I don't know. That seems to me there has to be some sort of nuance. And you know how I feel about
in baseball. We don't have as many killers in baseball as we do in football. Let's be honest.
No, that's true. That's true.
It's very true.
Well, and here's the other thing that
they're smart enough to hire people to do that.
Here's another thing that I hear a lot of people talk about, and they go, Clemens and Bonds should be in the Hall of Fame. Well, they are. They just don't have a plaque.
Right.
But the home run record and Bonds' career and 20 strikeouts, and he's got more Cy Youngs than anybody.
7 Cy Youngs he's got.
Yeah. Those things are noted, and they are in the Hall of Fame, and they are there for people to see.
Right.
Those guys just don't have a plaque.
They're in the Hall of Fame. They just don't have a plaque.
Can I ask you guys a question, because I can't find it online? Is the list of people who are voting, is it public?
Yeah.
Is it?
I'm pretty sure it is. I'm pretty sure the list is not who voted for who, unless they disclose that. But the list, I'm pretty sure, is public. Who gets to vote, I think, is public.
I think it should be,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is.
So here it is. Below is a list of 397 members of the BBWA, Baseball Writers something, who cast ballots in the 2020. Okay.
Baseball Writers Association of America.
Yeah. So 397 members. So I don't think they're going to have any problem of these people falling short. Mm-hmm. Dick Cagle, Joe Ostermeyer, Bob Waterman, Paul White, Robert Perry, Tim Kawakami, Chris DeLuca. I mean,
are you trashing Tim Kawakami?
No, I'm just saying this is. I want to dig just as deep into Jim Alexander and Peter Abraham's writing credentials as they are into Barry Bonds' steroid reviews.
Open up the case. Let's go.
Well, not only that, but also that's a fair point. It's more than fair. The passage of time too, because once you get the vote, it's yours forever. Right. You could have not written a word about baseball in 25 years.
It's like the Supreme Court. Baseball. You just can't die.
Well, yeah, there was a couple years ago. A couple of years ago, they said he hasn't literally in the last 20 years. Somebody that's on that list that votes, literally the only thing he's written in the last 20 years was a couple of local stories about a high school baseball team.
Yeah,
and he can vote for the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Well, that's it. Once you get the vote, you're locked. They can't take it away from you.
It's crazy.
So, listen, there's certainly a number of very good arguments to say that we need to look at who's voting and what the criteria is, and maybe give these guys, listen, like almost like so many things in life, to me, term limits can have a great effect on making it better. So,
look, I don't want to penalize anybody for not being an expert in their field. I'm actually the opposite. I think if you're doing a good job, and then that's fine. If you're active,
subjective though.
It is. Well,
you might consider this guy doing a great job. I might think he's terrible.
Right.
Right. There has to be some sort of.
We're not going to change that. But this idea that these guys have this, and it's mostly guys, I'm guessing, that have this control that we're gonna vote this time. Maybe next time. What's going to change?
Maybe I'll vote for him next year, but I don't want to this.
What is this drawn? I don't like this drawn out process.
Yeah. If you're gonna vote for him at some point, just vote for him.
Just vote for him.
Just vote for him.
How about this?
Well, and then of course you have the guys who, I'll never vote for this guy, or I'm not going to vote for him on the first ballot or whatever. I'm going to make him wait a few years because of this or that.
Right.
There's a certain hubris and arrogance, and
it's bullshit.
I agree.
They're not playing anymore. Their stats are not going to change. Their impact on the game is not going to change.
It's ridiculous.
But it's a position of power, and power corrupts.
The fact that A-Rod got 1/3 of the votes for the Hall of Fame on his first ballot is absolutely ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
ridiculous.
He's a dirty cheater.
Who wasn't a dirty cheater? How do we not know Whitey Ford wasn't a dirty fucking cheater?
Todd Helton, there you go.
Or any of these other people who are held to such high standards. Yeah. Who doesn't know they weren't dirty cheaters? Or Well, let me ask you this question then, okay? Because I know what my answer is.
I got it.
What's worse, what Barry Bonds and Clemens did, or what Altuve and the Astros did?
Well, honestly, what I think, my personal opinion, is what Altuve and the Astros.
Yeah. So do you think that's going to hurt him when his?
No.
Because he's obviously a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Sure he is.
If he went on the ballot today, I don't have to look it up. I know because I watch baseball. Yes. The answer is yes. He's in.
Right.
Unless you want to hold the guard, all this cheating against him.
Correct.
So.
Correct. Well, here, a couple other guys we talked about. You mentioned Billy Wagner's on the bubble. Here, let me throw this graphic up really quick right here. Billy Wagner, Trevor Hoffman, obviously, got in on his third ballot with 79.9% of the vote. Now, Trevor Hoffman threw for just about 182 more games than Billy Wagner in his career. Billy Wagner has more strikeouts than Trevor Hoffman had in 182 less games. His ERA is lower, career ERA. His WHIP is 1 compared to 1.06 for Trevor Hoffman. Yeah, he has 100
100ths.
What?
6/100ths.
6/100ths, yeah. So, and his WAR is virtually the same. Saves is a little less, but again, he pitched 182 less games. So this was his seventh year on the ballot, and he's
this is also a prejudice against relief pitchers.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, Goose Gossage, he had how many hand jobs did he have to give before he got in?
I don't know.
I mean, what did he get in on a special ballot where when he released his autobiography or something? I mean, I don't know.
I'm going to throw this up because Harry, you sent this to me before, and I made a graphic out of it, just a list. Here's Yankees. Here is the Yankees all-time team that is not in the Hall of Fame. Okay, here we go. You want to call it? You want to call it out? You did the list. Harry, you call
it. Yeah. At first base, we got Don Mattingly. Oh, by the way, if Mattingly can't play, we'll have Tino Martinez. Okay. Second base, we'll have Willie Randolph. I moved A-Rod to shortstop so we could get Greg Nettles in at third base. Right. And at catcher, we got Thurman Munson. Oh, don't worry. I've got Jorge Posada as a DH. In right field, we got Roger Maris, or if you so choose, Paul O'Neill. In left field, we got Charlie Keller. Maybe we'll throw Gary Sheffield in there. At DH and backup catcher, we'll have Jorge Posada. And then here's our starting pitchers.
You forgot center field.
Oh, center field. Bernie Williams.
Oh, he's no good.
Yeah, horrible player. Again,
great guitar player.
Yeah, horrible guitar player, but pretty fucking spectacular.
Better center fielder than a guitar player.
Here's our starting rotation.
Right.
Roger Clemens, Andy Pettit, David Cohn, Ron Guidry, and Tommy John, with the bullpen of Sparky Lyle, Mendoza, Dave Righetti, and Jeff Nelson. And we'll throw Billy Martin in as our manager. Yes, all of those players are not in the Hall of Fame.
Right.
By the way, going back to Trevor Hoffman versus
Billy Wagner.
Trevor Hoffman is second all time. So
no.
No. Let me finish my thought. He's second all time in saves. Okay, and it took him how many tries to get into the Hall of Fame?
Third time again.
Okay, so now having said that, Billy Wagner is sixth all time. Now he has almost 200 less saves, but he's sixth all time. Mm-hmm. Wow. All right, is Lee Smith in the Hall of Fame? I don't think he is. Mm-hmm. Francisco Rodriguez.
Lee Smith has like one more save than Billy Wagner or something.
No,
right?
I'm just.
Isn't he like 423 or something?
These guys are all bunched up around the same. Lee Smith has 478.
Oh, it's 478.
Francisco Rodriguez has 437. John Franco, 424. Billy Wagner, 422. Dennis Eckersley's 390. I believe Dennis Eckersley is in the Hall of Fame.
Dennis Eckersley's in the Hall of Fame.
All of those previous four are not.
Right.
Now, Joe Nathan.
Three of those previous four pitched for the Mets, too.
Right. All right, so let me ask you this question. Is Jonathan Papelbon, who I believe his career is over, right? Is he still pitching?
No, he's fighting. He's fighting.
Decided to put his aggressive
Bryce Harper again.
It's a good use, and he's a member of the WWE now.
Right.
Yeah, whatever. So, I mean, he's got 300, and he's 10th all time in saves. Mm-hmm. Had a pretty good career. Raleigh Fingers has 341 saves. Now, granted, he was a starter for a long time, but he's in the Hall of Fame. Mm-hmm. So there is a bias against relief pitchers. Now, Mariano was a no-brainer. Mariano only had 51 more saves than Trevor Hoffman. Mm-hmm. Now, that's a lot. But
it's a season. It's a
far,
good season.
It's far less than Trevor Hoffman and Billy Wagner. Yeah, it's a good season. 50 saves.
It's a really good.
It's a really good season.
It's a good season and a half
for most people now.
Well, no. I mean, I'm talking about for Mariano Rivera. It's a good season.
Oh, it's every other year.
What I always argue with Rivera too is during a lot of those years they didn't need him. The Yankees didn't need. They weren't in a save situation.
Yeah,
because of the list of guys I just read that are not in the Hall of Fame.
He's only got 3 saves because he only came into 3 games.
Exactly.
It's
like Mariano, you haven't been on the mound in 10 days. I know we're leading by 9, but get out there and pitch an inning.
Just pitch an inning.
Yeah, that doesn't count as a save.
It was like a side throwing session for him.
Right.
And then just I'll mention this too. Obviously, besides Billy Wagner, here's another couple of Mets that are not in the Hall of Fame, and then three of them obviously translate to the Yankees too. But Keith Hernandez, not in the Hall of Fame. Beltran, obviously, not in the Hall of Fame. David Cone, not in the Hall of Fame. David Wright's on this list. I didn't make this list myself. I pulled it off of I forget where I pulled it off somewhere. But David Wright, he's not eligible yet, but he will be in 2024. But I'm gonna go out on a limb and say he's not getting in on his first ballot.
No,
probably
shouldn't.
Right.
But
you look at his career, with the exception of his last couple of years because of injury.
He's got Hall of Fame.
He had Hall of Fame numbers, absolutely, and of course Doc Gooden, and for that matter, Darryl Strawberry. But you can't make up a list for the Mets as crazy as that Yankees list you made up, but you can make up a pretty damn good list for the Mets.
Mm-hmm.
But here's one, and I did not make this graphic. I just thought it was funny, so I want to put it up. Because of the the battle back and forth all the time between Piazza and Clemens. This one, hey, Roger, come visit me in Cooperstown. It's $32 to enter. Piazza pointing at Clemens. So.
Yeah, and Clemens' response is, as soon as you pull the other end of that bat out of your ass, which I shoved up it.
Well, you know what? I put it up for a reason, other than obviously it was a little slightly humorous. I put it up for a reason. Piazza, there's speculation about Piazza, right, too? And he got in. He's in. Right?
Speculation about steroids or other things?
Both.
Steroids. Come on.
Let's be honest, both.
All right.
Although one really, neither of them should be. Well, that's the question. Maybe one should be held against the player. The other one certainly shouldn't.
No, of course not.
He's a great player, but you know what? That might be the mindset of some of the guys that are casting votes, to be honest. Right? You can't tell me some of those old school guys don't, maybe hate the gays or whatever.
Look, I'll say something about Piazza. Piazza, I think, does not get the credit I think he's underrated.
Piazza's underrated.
I think Hernandez is underrated. I think David Wright is a name that goes under the radar no matter what because of just who he is.
His numbers are
right there. He's right there with Todd Helton. Look, Todd Helton, had he played for the Mets or the Yankees, would have been an All-Star way more than he was with the Yankees. He was a 5-time All-Star.
Look, I think they're both going to get in the Hall are really good.
Right. He's a 3-time Gold Glove Award winner, 4-time Silver Slugger. Okay, he won the Major League Batting Championship and RBI leader in 2000. And he hit 316 for his career with over 2,500 hits and almost 400 home runs and just under 1,500 RBIs.
Right.
Okay, now if somebody says, hey, there's some sort of analytics and that doesn't get you in, then we got to look back because there's a lot of people who are in who have numbers that don't add up to that.
Right. David Wright, really quick, just a couple of numbers. I'm not going to go through a whole list of things, but 14-year career. All right, 7-time All-Star, 2-time Gold Glove, 2-time Silver Slugger. His career batting average is just shy of 300. 242 home runs, just shy of 1,000 RBIs for his career. And that was with the last 3 or 4 years of his career. Just injuries like galore.
I think Wright's issue is with a lot of issues. Is that I think he just doesn't have the length of a career that would have justified him, as a no-brainer. That's why I think he's on the bubble. I think had he performed at the level that he did
are there any players in the Hall of Fame that had a 10 or 11 or 12 or 13-year career?
Yes, but he had under 1,000 RBIs in a 14-year career. That's good.
Right.
it's not no brainer.
Well, you got to look at it like this. It was really an 11-year career.
Right. So there you go.
There you go. It was really, I mean, the last 3 years of his career were, he added to those numbers somewhat, but if he was at full strength, he would have had probably closer to 1,200 RBIs and closer to 300 home runs.
And the 11 years is kind of okay. He had out of those 11 years, he had 9 really, really, really good years. Mm. I'm of the opinion that yes, he should probably get in, but I also think that he is one of those guys who you kind of have to dig in a little bit more. Right. He doesn't just pop up as a no-brainer.
Right.
But if you were to ask, I think there should be a celebration. And if there is some sort of definable thing where you have to have this, and this, and you have to be this and that, and then that's fine. I get it.
Gotcha.
Okay. But it's all subjective.
That's it. That's another question that's just sort of being raised in the zeitgeist. Is it time to maybe set some stat numbers, some boundaries here?
No, because and here's why is that there's so many numbers that are elevated now versus when they were back at the look what Ron Guidry did in 1977 or 78 whenever he went 25-3 with a 1.46 ERA. Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, that was incredible. No one's going to do that today unless what's his name can stay healthy for a complete year. That would be
Jacob deGrom.
Jacob deGrom. There's so many elevated stats nowadays and I think batting averages have gone down in the last 5 years, but before that they've gone up. The home run numbers have certainly gone up. Incredible. So if you could somehow have some, and I'm sure this exists, where you could say, okay, player X played in these years. Here's what they did versus what the average is or what the composite of that era was, which I think these writers should fucking be doing.
Right.
Okay. Then yes. And I think you have to look at it that way. Who were their contemporaries? Who else in those years? Now, some of these players, like a David Cone, like who pitched for a very long time, like a Todd Helton, who played for 18 years? Yeah. I mean, 2013 to 1997, when he came in the league in 2013, there were 3 eras in there, in some ways.
Yeah, but isn't that part of what makes a Hall of Famer Hall of Famer is that they would be great in any era, or at least would be considered that way?
They would be great in any era, but I would argue that if Babe Ruth was playing today, his numbers would be even bigger than what they were. It's just
But here's the question. All right, so if a guy hits 500 home runs, does that get him in? I mean, should it?
How many players who haven't hit 500 home runs are not in?
Or how many players have hit 500?
How many players that have not hit 500?
No, I don't know.
Or how many players that have hit 500 are not in the Hall of Fame?
Right.
I don't know. Yeah. But should it be an automatic?
Probably.
All right, that's kind of the question I was getting at. Are there certain things certain milestones or whatever, where you reach it, whether you're a jackass, whether your average is 290 for your career,
that stat gets you in,
or it's 210. Right. If you hit, 500 home runs, you're in the Hall of Fame. And it's
going to have to change,
right? Because Sammy Sosa's hit 609. He's not in. Mark McGwire's hit 583. Now, granted, these are is Rafael Palmeiro in? No, he's also part of the whole. Is Manny Ramirez in? No, again, part of that whole thing.
Yeah.
Mickey Mantle, David Ortiz, Jimmy Fox, Ted Williams, Ernie Banks. So
I heard a lot of those guys are actually forming a club. They're going to get together with Jose Canseco every Thursday.
Some of them.
Is Eddie Murray in the Hall of Fame?
I don't think so.
He's not. I thought he is. I thought he was.
Yeah, I think he did get in.
Yeah.
So here are the guys that are not in the Hall of Fame that have hit over 500 home runs: Gary Sheffield, Manny Ramirez, Rafi Palmeiro, Mark McGwire, and Sammy Sosa and Alex Rodriguez.
Yep.
Jesus Christ, Alex Rodriguez hit 696 home runs.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm including I'm not including Pujols, who's still technically playing. And Miguel Cabrera, who's still technically playing.
Didn't he or his wife say that he's done or something like that? Or
yeah, we'll see.
Pujols. So, but it doesn't matter. He's got to wait 5 years anyway. So,
Dave Kingman, Jason Giambi, Paul Konerko. Okay, these guys all fell short of 500, but they had more than Mike Piazza, Cal Ripken Jr., and Andre Dawson, who are all in the Hall of Fame.
There you go.
So I think it's tough.
Well, I mean, Mike Piazza's numbers, right? That he that's as a catcher, right? So,
well, okay,
Yeah, but
yes, doesn't he have the most home runs ever as a catcher?
Yeah.
So is that the sort of thing that puts you in automatically? I don't know.
But
stop.
Shut up.
Well, he had 289, but he's a shortstop.
He was a catcher. That's what I saw.
No. Then who's somebody said it the other day. It was damn it, I forget who it was, but it was like he had the most home runs for a second baseman, or something.
Dude, Jeff Bagwell?
I don't know what it was.
Maybe it's
Jeff Bagwell. No,
maybe it was Biggio, or I don't think it was Biggio.
It was the most something for. It was a second baseman. Most something for second base, and he's not.
Yeah, but none of his other stats. I know. I don't know. I know what you're saying.
Right,
I don't think any of his other stats qualify for the Hall of Fame.
Gotcha.
It's just this one thing.
That one thing. Yeah.
He's like,
I thought Robbie Cano had more home runs than any other second baseman.
I don't know.
I know what you're saying, though. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like he did this one thing. Yeah. That's the problem. If you go, well, this is an automatic in. Well,
but he sucked at everything else. But he did good at that.
It's like they were taking him out of games late for defensive purposes as the second baseman.
Jeff Kent has the most home runs.
Jeff Kent. That's
right. All right. Let me ask you this. So, if a guy was really good at home runs and RBIs and on base percentage,
Robbie Cano's not far behind him.
All right, those three. Jeff Kent, that's what it was.
Yeah, you and I should know that.
Yeah, I should have known that. I know.
Matter of fact, I think
there was a reason why I was thinking of it.
I guessed that on the show one time, and it turned out to be right, but I forgot it.
Yeah. Whatchamacallit. So if a guy has great home run numbers, great OBP, great RBIs, but not great numbers at defense, not great numbers at this or that. That side of the field. Do you think he should get in? He was good. He was good at the plate. Really wasn't good at the field.
Piazza got in. David Ortiz never even played the field.
That's my point. That's my point. I was going for Big Papi, right? So if a guy's offensive, if a guy played first base or whatever, and his offensive numbers were amazing, but his defensive numbers suck.
But that probably works, but I don't think you're going to see somebody get in who was just Mickey Rivers was a phenomenal defensive center fielder, but he hit 150,
Right.
So,
it doesn't work the other way. Obviously, offensive numbers are higher than defensive
numbers. And the other thing about Ortiz, though,
but
is he got paid to just hit the ball, too.
Right.
There was a position where he couldn't play the field because it wasn't his job, so... I don't know. Maybe that's the whole point of, we're going to let these people who write about baseball and supposedly know the game decide.
Right.
Maybe that's the whole. I don't know. I don't want to see benchmarks that mean you're automatically in.
No,
I think those exist in people's minds already, and in the minds of the baseball writers in some cases. But I don't know.
Right. Well, and it's a debate that is definitely going to be ongoing, and we could talk about it a little bit more as some other stuff comes out. I'm sure there's going to be more talked about because it was just voted last night, so there's going to be more stuff to talk about.
Jeff Kent is not in the Hall of Fame.
No, he is not. Jeff Kent is not in the Hall of Fame.
He has one more home run than Carlton Fisk.
There you
go ahead. Who did it as a catcher?
The original Pudge.
But I mean, at some point, you have to look at this more like, all right, Jeff Kent, Carlton Fisk, who's a no-brainer Hall of Famer out of those two, even though they have
Carlton Fisk.
Yeah. I'd say Kent.
No, Carlton Fisk, one of the best all-time. Yeah.
If I have to vote for one of those two, and that's it,
Jeff Kent has more career home runs than Joe DiMaggio. I would argue Joe DiMaggio is one of the top 4 baseball players of all time.
But not one of the top 4 home run hitters of all time.
Well, not by stats, no.
Right. And there was an article I read, and then we'll wrap up too because we got a lot of football.
We're talking about baseball for 49 minutes.
I know, really. So we got just one other thing too. I'm not going to go through the whole
article.
You
guys were probably fine till I came on.
I was reading.
Now and Eddie with his questions. What about if a guy hit 499 home runs?
I was reading this thing. It was like it was big. It took big. It was either Big Papi's or it might have been Barry. No, it was Barry Bonds. It took Barry Bonds' numbers and said if you and I'm going to paraphrase a little bit of it because I'm not going to go through. It was a very long article on it, but it basically said if you put his home games, not in San Francisco or wherever, if you put his home games in Colorado, in Denver, okay, because of the ballpark, because of the dimensions of the ballpark, because of the air and everything else, right? It basically calculated out that he'd have over 1,000 home runs, not 763. He'd have over 1,000 home runs, and he'd have his OPS would be like 1,600.
Well, he did get to play in Denver,
Right, but 82 games, 81 games as opposed to 6 a season.
I don't think it was that big of a difference. I think people exaggerate.
I know it's exaggerated.
I think it was. I think it was for 1 year when the humidor was involved. I think that yes, the Andres Galarraga, Larry Walker early years of the Rockies. Yes, that was definitely the case, but it has not boded true in the years since.
Well, I think there's a great story about the Braves visiting the Rockies back in the day, and Sid Bream in batting practice checking his swing and hitting the ball out of the park, or in right field or something like that. So the difference
check
was
swing
probably,
home run.
yeah, during batting practice.
Right.
So it was, the difference was obviously overblown, but it was a real thing. Physically, it is a real thing. But
anyway, all right. Well, we'll talk obviously more about this as we go because the lockout's still going on. So we'll have a little bit. If we're going to talk about baseball, we'll have to discuss. But
how many days till pitchers and catchers?
Your guess is as good as mine. So.
Well, what's it supposed
to start in? Well, probably like 3.5 weeks. 3.5 weeks. So
it ain't looking good.
Not so much, no. So anyway, all right. Let's shift it into gear to football. What do you think?
What a mess of a week.
Mess of a week in what way?
Oh God!
Did you guys listen to the press conference today?
Teams got robbed.
Are
we going to talk about the Giants and Jets first? Because I might have to go use the bathroom if you guys are going to do that.
I only have one thing. I don't even have anything to talk about for the Jets if Pete does, but I have one thing I want to say, or two things I just want to say about the Giants. But let's start like we always do with the quiz. With the quiz. All right. This week we're still doing linebackers. We're moving up to 2000 to 2020, or 2001 to 2020, if you want to be like that 20-year span from 2000 to 2020. I'm going to give you 6 names, 4 stay, 2 got to go. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Write them down. Here we go. Derek Brooks.
How many years did he play in the 2000s?
8 or 9.
Yeah. Okay.
Almost the whole first decade of the 2000s. Ray Lewis.
The killer.
Ray Lewis.
Another guy who's not coming on the show.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Brian Urlacher. Luke Kuechly. Or Kuechly, if you want to call it that. Kuechly. Bobby Wagner.
Still playing, right?
Still playing.
Is Kuechly still playing, or is he finally done?
No, he's done.
He's done.
A couple years ago, yeah. And another guy that's still playing, Mr. Von Miller.
Mm.
So once again, Derek Brooks, Ray Lewis, Brian Urlacher, Luke Kuechly, Bobby Wagner, and Von Miller. Radio Pete, you want to go first?
Who'd Kuechly play for?
Carolina.
Panthers. Yeah, he's pretty good. Mm-hmm. All right, well, I'm keeping Ray Lewis because he killed somebody or helped kill somebody. And I like that in a linebacker. I want that spirit on my defense. Derek Brooks, he sticks around.
All righty.
I had to keep Von Miller.
Why not? And who you taking out of Urlacher, Kuechly, and Wagner?
Urlacher was an 8-time Pro Bowler, 4-time first team All Pro.
Yeah, he was a juicer though. I'm keeping Kuechly.
You keep Kuechly.
Urlacher was a juicer, and Wagner.
Urlacher was a juicer. What did his home run record get tarnished? Tucker, how do you know who's a juicer?
That's a little bird told me.
Isn't he in the Hall?
Look at him. Just look at him.
Yeah, look at all of them. Ray Lewis looks like he could eat barbed wire.
No, Urlacher looks like a bulldog.
I'm sorry, but if I had to pick a fight with any of these guys, that I might not die within 35 seconds.
Picking fights, we're picking.
It definitely wouldn't be Urlacher or Ray Lewis.
Urlacher and Wagner are out.
Urlacher and Wagner are out. All right, Harry, who are you for?
I want to put Von Miller on this list, but I feel like his team has tailed off.
He has.
And I like Von Miller, and I think he's one of the... But Derek Brooks has to stay on there.
All right.
Ray Lewis has to stay on there. Urlacher has to stay on there. And I think out of those three that are left, I think Bobby Wagner's the best player out of those three. So I'm going to go Brooks, Lewis, Urlacher, and Bobby Wagner.
You're going Brooks, Lewis, Urlacher, and Bobby Wagner. There you go. All right. So you agree on 2 this week.
Yep.
As opposed to last week, you actually had them all the same. Look at that.
Yeah.
So, Derek Brooks and Ray Lewis, you both agree on. Harry, you got Urlacher.
Bobby Wagner's
everybody made it.
Bobby Wagner's already been an 8-time Pro Bowler and a 6-time first team All Pro. 6 times.
No relation to Billy Wagner. No relation.
Who does he play for?
Seattle.
The Astros.
The Seattle Astros.
So what? He's got 1 Super Bowl.
Who does he play for? I don't know.
I have no idea who Bobby Wagner is, honestly.
Are you kidding me? He's probably
I really don't.
He's probably the best linebacker in football right now, I would say.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Not on my team.
Yes, he has won a Super Bowl. He won.
Okay. He won a Super Bowl in 2014.
He was part of the NFL 2010s All-Decade team.
Mm-hmm. Yes, he was.
Sorry, Bobby. You don't make the cut.
There you go. All right.
Cool. I will give you this. The other 2010 recipients that are on that list, Luke Kuechly is one of them.
Uh-huh. There you go. And Von Miller didn't make the 2010s All-Decade team?
No.
Really? Shocking. I thought he would have. All right. Well, there you go. That's our list for the week.
Oh, no, he is on there. You're right. He is on there.
Yeah, I thought he was. Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. So there you go. All right, that's our list.
Look, I'll take any of them though.
Oh no, well any of these people that we're putting on the list, it's hard to take 2 off, right? So
yeah, it's hard.
At least this way, nobody was left off. Between the 2 of you, they're all
with a clipboard and goes, "Here's your 4 linebackers." Anyone on that list, you go,
here's 6 linebackers. Which 4 do you want?
Yeah. No, they walk in and they tell you, "Here's your 4 linebackers."
I'll take all 6 of them, and I'll just start Urlacher and Lewis at defensive tackle.
There you go.
Well, you run like a
or fullback.
Run like a 2-6-3.
Now.
Yeah. Just rush 2 linebackers.
That'd be great in today's passing game.
1 or 2 linebackers.
Here goes Brian Urlacher trying to cover Devontae Adams.
I want to see that.
Might have to bring to the outside to make him an edge rusher.
Yeah.
But think about that. If you had those 6 guys lined up behind your 2 defensive linemen.
Right.
And you don't know which 1 or 2 or 3 of them are going are rushing. That would be
kind of like what the Giants did against the Bills in the Super Bowl.
You couldn't prepare for that.
Yeah, no, you couldn't. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Then you got 2 corners and 1 very lonely safety.
That's it. He's all by himself. So
it's a modified 46.
Yeah, there you go. All right, let's move on to some discussion about what's been going on in the last week. Let's start off with the big news yesterday.
What's that?
Mr. Sean Payton stepping down as head coach of the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy news.
Now, do you really think he's going to go to Dallas?
15 years.
Not next year.
15 years. Well, here's the thing, right? He's still got years left on his contract. So regardless of whether he stepped down or not, if any team wants him, if he wants to coach on another team next year, that team has to trade for him. So,
that's why I think he's going to take a year off.
So he's going to take a year. I think he's got 2 years on this contract. So even if somebody wants him
actually.
It's 3? Oh, there you go.
3.
So
but if
he's
he
planning
takes
on
one
coaching
off, then the price goes down.
Right.
And I think Jerry Jones, if he does end up in Dallas, and I'm not sure he will, but I think Jerry Jones is
he's done.
Potentially willing to give Mike McCarthy one more year before shit canning him, which he should be fired fucking right now.
I think honestly. Sean Payton's done.
Here's a little.
That's the other question. Does Payton get a nice cushy announcer's job and never go back, a la Bill Cowher?
Right.
I think Sean Payton is a good coach. I think he's overrated.
Yeah. Well, here's a little interesting thing I read. Dallas and New Orleans 3 years ago, 2019, they were actually in the middle of a trade talks, and they were close to a deal with getting Sean Payton traded to the Dallas Cowboys, and then obviously he would have Jerry Jones would have fired what's his face, Jason Garrett. Thank you.
Giants offensive coordinator.
There you go.
Jason
well,
Garrett.
former offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Right. So he would have fired him then, as opposed to after. This is before he fired Payton. Before he fired
Garrett.
Garrett. Thank you. There's too many names on this list I'm looking at. Anyway, they were in the middle of serious talks, and they were close to a deal. Mickey Loomis was the GM of the Saints. Mickey Loomis, at the same time, was also the vice president of the Pelicans. And Mickey Loomis, during these trade talks, wound up sending AD to Los Angeles. And then he put the kibosh immediately on trading Sean Payton, because he did not want to be viewed as the common thread between sending two big names out of the city of.
So maybe Zion Williamson will go to the Cowboys.
Well, I don't know, what did they get for AD, because he hasn't done a whole lot for
that's
for
true.
LA, to be honest.
He won a championship.
Yeah, and then
that was it.
Got hurt.
Yeah.
And then he got hurt again. Although I guess he came back last night.
He won a championship, which for the Lakers is not big news. But if he came to the Knicks and won a championship, he'd be, he would vault ahead of Patrick Ewing in the.
Right, but he hasn't been around. I mean, they didn't get it done last year, and he's
back now.
Well, Sean Payton is it was 15. He's a 15-year career, obviously 15 years on as a Saints head coach. Now, do you think he's just done? Obviously, he's not going anywhere. He's not coaching next year. It's not going to happen unless somebody really, really wants him. But do you think he's done, or do you think he'll take a year off and come back somewhere else? Right, and maybe it's Dallas, that kind of thing.
I think if it's going to be Dallas, that's what he'll do.
Unless
he falls in love with broadcasting.
Why would you go to Dallas?
I don't know.
Because they're pretty much a ready-made team.
Yeah, well,
I don't think he was going to come back to a place and have to rebuild again.
Right.
He did that.
He did that already.
He did that already, and he won a Super Bowl. But Dallas, you can walk in. You got some good players. You got an owner who spends money.
That's true. So let me throw this graphic up here.
Name franchise.
Drew Brees, crazy but true. Drew Brees had the worst winning percentage among Sean Payton quarterbacks. Teddy Bridgewater has an a point.
That is completely unfair.
833 winning percentage.
Wait, who was Sean Payton's quarterbacks this year?
Well, these guys amongst a few others, but
amongst a few others. Let's put the others up there.
Well, Teddy Bridgewater 5-1, Taysom Hill 7-2.
Minimum 6 games played.
Minimum 5 starts. Jameis Winston 5-2. Drew Brees, he's only got a 637% winning percentage. I just thought this graphic was hysterical. I had to put it up.
That's a good one.
And I saw this one too. I had to throw it up too. Apparently the Saints have already found their new head coach. There you go, right there. That's from the movie that they made with Kevin James.
Kevin James, yeah.
Kevin James as Sean Payton. So there you go. That was funny. Anyway, but I don't know. I honestly think he's done. I honestly think he's gonna get the broadcasting.
He's older than you think he is, right?
He's the late 50s, 58, 59, something like that. Yeah. But I think he's gonna fall in love with broadcasting. It's gonna be a hell of a lot easier of a career. He's gonna make decent money. He's gonna be a wealth of knowledge. People are gonna respect him. He's gonna move around. He's gonna do that. I think that's as opposed to going back and having to deal with Jerry Jones. I mean,
is Jerry Jones all that hard to deal with? I don't know.
Bill Parcells went down there, couldn't win, and Jerry made fun of him and fired him.
Bill Parcells won. He just didn't win a Super Bowl.
Well, he didn't win what Jerry wanted him to win, is my point. Right.
No,
so Sean Payton goes down there and wins, but doesn't win a Super Bowl, then, you got to deal with it, right?
Well, if you walk in and you get the deal that you want, and Jerry agrees to your terms, then it can be a very nice job because you're in charge and he can go fuck off. But if you don't get that, then
that really
why the hell would you go there?
And really, very, very rarely happens in Dallas with Jerry staying out of it and letting you do everything.
Exactly.
I mean, come on.
Exactly. And even if it's in the contract, he's still
he's not going to.
There are ways
to it
to be involved. That Jerry Jones can be involved without technically being involved.
So, all right. Well, just a couple things on the Giants, and we'll talk about all the games last weekend. Whatchamacallit? Joe Shane obviously was announced as the GM. He's the new GM of the Giants. So congratulations there. We put it up on the Facebook page anyway. Not that it's not common knowledge at this point. It happened last Friday. So seems that Brian Daboll's a lock to be head coach at this point. I mean, they've already interviewed him twice.
Sounds like it's a done deal, yeah.
It sounds like it's a done deal, but you think there's still a chance that it might be Flores or Quinn or Peyton?
It's got to be Peyton. Shane did mention Flores.
Might be Walter Payton.
And Quinn in his press conference.
Or Peyton Manning.
I actually took some notes on the press conference.
Did you? Look at that. Yeah. Read them away. Go for it.
There were a couple things I want to ask you guys about.
There's only one thing he said that makes me nervous.
All right. Okay. Well, see, I bet it's one of mine. Go ahead. Which is
that he wants to build around Daniel Jones. Now, I hope that's just lip service.
All right. Well,
he has to say right now.
Well, here's the thing, because a minute or two before that, he was talking about getting together with whoever the new head coach is and the team and looking at the personnel. He was very careful about saying we're going to do, other than there was a lot of, when we have the staff in place, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And then a minute and a half later, he said, we're going to build around Daniel Jones, which I think was the truth.
Well, he might be lying. I would build around him, too. I would put him over here and then have the team around him that's on the field.
On one hand, 1 second, he's saying we're going to look at everybody, which I think is the pat, correct answer. And then a minute and a half later or so, I think he slipped up and said we're going to build around Daniel Jones.
Which tells me two things. He's a realist because he knows that the Giants are not getting any other quarterback. All of this talk about all of these quarterbacks, no one's going anywhere.
Right.
Russell Wilson is staying in Seattle, especially with Sean Payton leaving New Orleans. And I think Rodgers he's definitely not going to the Giants. And if he plays again, I think it's going to be in Green Bay. There's no great quarterback that's out there and available right now. No. And the ones that the Giants passed over are still in the playoffs.
Right.
All right.
Yeah, they are.
Or were still.
or were in the play. Are in the playoffs or were in the playoffs. Yeah.
Here's a couple of my highlights here.
Okay.
Every question that any reporter asked, he said it was a good question.
He's trying to build a positive.
Yes.
Good question.
He's a positive guy.
I don't think he's a media natural.
No.
Because he stumbled a little bit. I thought it was really weird that he spent like 5 minutes thanking the Bills organization at his Giants introductory press conference. I think there's
a couple of those have.
He's trying to grease. He's trying to make people that are still technically with the Bills realize he's thankful for that.
But he thanked everyone from the owners down to the parking lot attendants. Huh? Along with his fifth grade football and
what you don't know is that the Giants and Bills are going to merge and become one team.
That's a possibility.
The Giants or the Gills?
Just the Bills.
He thanked his college coaches.
The East Rutherford Bills.
He thanked some guys he knows who know some other coaches. And Alonzo Highsmith thanked him too.
There you go. It'd be funny is if they do merge.
He thanked Susan B. Anthony, didn't he?
If they do merge and combine their histories, then they both won and lost the same Super Bowl.
If they merge their teams right now, there'll be 3 Giant players on the squad next year.
I gotcha.
All right, so here's a couple other things. He said hiring will be a collaborative effort between ownership and the GM.
He's saying what everybody says.
Well, but that's kind of one of my questions for you guys, because I kind of feel like the Giants, if they hire Brian Daboll, who has no head coaching experience, right? And he did say it doesn't matter to him whether he has head coaching experience or not.
Well, Brian Daboll right now, here's his coaching. Hold that thought. I want to hear the question about.
He has no head coaching experience.
Here's his coaching experience. Right, he was the offensive coordinator for the Browns from 2009 to 2010. He was the offensive coordinator for the Dolphins for 2011, the Chiefs for 2012. He was the Patriots tight ends coach from 2013 to 2016. So he has 2 Super Bowls. He went to Alabama and was the offensive coordinator down in Alabama for 1 season, just for 2017, and he's been the Bills' offensive coordinator since 2018.
Okay, so he has 0 head coaching.
So he flops around a lot, and his biggest success is coaching Travis Kelce.
Here's the question I want to ask you: if it's a collaborative effort, like who gets the final say? If it's the ownership, then you're talking about the same guys who've made terrible decisions,
exactly. Well,
over and over again.
John Mara has been quoted as saying it's going to be collaborative or whatever, but he's going to defer to the new GM.
And
this was before Shane was hired.
And then John Mara, who hasn't spoken to the media since 1963, comes out 2 days after he hires a GM and just offers his opinion on Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
Well, did you see what he said about Deshaun Watson?
Yeah, there's no chance in hell.
He says his quote was, "We're not trading for Deshaun Watson. I'm not Robert Kraft. We don't do that around here."
Yeah, but you don't win Super Bowls. Yeah. So my point being is that here's a guy who's always been the ultimate owner and doesn't really say much, but just 2 days after hiring a GM wants to come out and say something about Deshaun Watson. I mean, the John Mara of the past wouldn't address it.
He would just left it alone, right?
Not publicly.
Not publicly.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Here's my next point.
Go for it.
I mean.
He talked a lot. Shane talked a lot about having people on the same page, in the same mindset. Blah blah blah. Obviously, you want your staff, working towards the same goals and all that, blah, blah. He said all the right things. The thing that I thought about was, well, one of the things that we've learned from basically all kinds of walks of life is you want to have dissenting opinions around you too. Mm-hmm. You don't want everyone who thinks the same way, because then everybody might think this is a great idea and it's a terrible idea.
Right.
You know what?
And I worry that, I don't think he's going to just bring in a bunch of yes men. But it kind of it sounded like he was sort of describing a bubble where everybody is in the same mindset. Right. And that can be very dangerous. You have to have somebody in there who goes, wait a minute, I don't think so.
Well, I mean, naturally you're going to get that.
I think you will, but
his press conference should have been this. He should have put up a cardboard sign at the podium that said, "I am busy looking for offensive linemen. Right. I will talk to you at the end of the season."
Ralph Vacchiano from SNY actually did interview him yesterday, and he said that it's no secret that the offensive line needs to be rebuilt. He said there were some injuries this year, but that's definitely
he
basically alluded to the fact that that's the first thing they have to do. And he said Daniel Jones, in order for Daniel Jones to succeed, or for Daniel Jones, I'm trying to get the right quote. For Daniel Jones to get off on the right foot, he has to stay on his feet. He said that. And then he said for Saquon to actually do any damage, somebody has to block for him. That's what he said.
Yeah. The Giants have a better chance with Bridget Jones than they do with Daniel Jones, but they'll have a better chance with either of them with an offensive line. And but I will say this in the Giants' defense. Their offensive line improved this year. Mm-hmm. And there are a couple guys that I'm okay with that I think are going to have 4, 5, 6 good years out of them, like Thomas and some of those guys. Let's just look at the numbers. Had a pretty decent year. Mm-hmm. The Giants' offensive line performed better than the Bengals' offensive line. So don't tell me that it's just about the fucking offensive line, because it's not.
Right. No. You're right.
Yeah. He actually did list basically every aspect of the game that needs improvement. Right. He said we need to improve on offense. The line.
He could have saved a lot of time by saying we need to improve everywhere.
Yeah.
All right.
And the one player he said we're going to build around is Daniel Jones.
Which was I think was a slip.
I thought he should have said we're going to build around Graham Gano.
Yeah, he's your.
We're going to build around Indiana Jones.
All right, here's my last point. The last question I want to ask you.
Tom Jones.
Because we've talked about the Giant way, right? Mm-hmm. And how the Giant way of doing things hasn't been working, and they have to change. And kind of have to maybe stop having the ownership make bad decisions. Give the keys to the guy that you hired to run the show.
Right.
And maybe that'll happen and maybe it won't. I don't know. If there's two mayors and a Tish and a GM all trying to make decisions, do you go with majority, whatever. Anyway, here's my point.
Well, if you go with majority, why the hell's the GM there?
Exactly.
Right.
Somebody's got to make those decisions.
But here's my point. Now you have a new GM, right? First time GM. And you're going to have a new head coach.
Yep.
First time head coach, if it's Daboll.
Right.
How are the Giants in any different a position than they have been the last few times when they're bringing in GMs and coaches?
Well, hopefully
now, you're expecting these guys to be better, yes, but the Giants are in exactly
no, they're not. They're not, because they're not picking Rutgers' second-string cleat cleaner who was a special teams coach and held the tight end's towel for 3 weeks. Okay, Joe Judge had no credentials. Okay,
right, but didn't
Daboll is the offensive coordinator for the second best offense in the NFL. Who's just developed
and he runs it. He's not a play caller. He runs the offense.
Right.
But didn't we just talk a few weeks ago about how they need to stop hiring rookie coaches and bring someone in with experience?
So who has experience? And Brian Flores has a little experience. Let's leave him out of it, because I've got a lot of question marks about Flores. Other than Brian Flores, who else do you hire? I'm all ears.
I don't know.
Dan Quinn.
I don't know who's available.
I would say
head coaches are like quarterbacks. If there's a good one, they're not available.
Right.
But they're not available. Okay, but how do you trust these
of the
guys?
ones that are out there? If take Brian Daboll out of it, take Brian Flores out of it. Of who's left and available, honestly, I'd take Harbaugh first. But him aside of who's left, I would take Dan Quinn.
And Harbaugh's not.
And I'm not saying he's the right choice either. I'm
actually
pretty okay with Brian Daboll right now. I am. I'm not.
So
remains to be seen. I'm more comfortable with Brian Daboll right now than I was 2 years ago with Joe Judge getting hired.
But it's the same guys that are now picking the next GM.
Or 4 years ago when they hired Pat Shurmur.
But Pat Shurmur was a bad hire.
Right.
I mean, he was Minnesota's
offensive
coordinator.
Right.
He wasn't a head coach. Look what he's done to the Broncos. He got Vic Fangio fired.
It's the same guys hiring the next GM,
So do you change? So you got to change. So you got to change ownership.
Well, I don't know, but my point is, how do you trust them that now these are good decisions, or do you just go in hope and faith? We hope it's better.
When the Chargers hired their head coach, whoever, I forget his name now, people were up in arms that this guy was too young, too inexperienced, blah 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 blah.
Look what he's doing.
Look, the Rams. I'm sorry, the Rams head coach.
Sean McVay.
Same thing with the Chargers.
The Chargers too. He's young. Yeah. Go ahead, finish.
Yeah, I mean, the only seasoned head coach that's gone from one team to another and has had a modicum of success with a lot of talent is Andy Reid.
Yep. And here's why I'm going to tell you it's different now. Here's what I'm going to tell you it's different now. And follow me here. Okay. The Giants just hired Joe Schoen as their GM. It looks like they're going to hire Brian Daboll as their head coach.
Do the Giants keep their defensive coordinator is my question.
I think they actually probably do keep Patrick Graham. But regardless of that, just specifically speaking of Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll, okay? 4 years ago, all right, Joe Schoen is a name, and he's been assistant GM. He's not a director of player personnel or a scout or something like that. He's the assistant GM in Buffalo. So he's the next in line to making the calls, right? He's a name that's been talked around the league by a number of teams that will have interest at some point in hiring him. Or he'll be in the mix to be hired as a GM, okay? Brian Daboll, for a couple of years now or more, has been talked about somebody that's going to be a head coach. Somebody's going to hire him. It's been talked around the league by not just the Giants, by a lot of teams, okay? It's been discussed in many places by many people in many different markets that these two guys are going to be GMs, a GM and a head coach. Maybe not together, but at some point these two guys are going to be in the mix for those jobs. 4 years ago, other than the Giants hiring Dave Gettleman, was any team interested in Dave Gettleman? 2 years ago, other than the Giants hiring Joe Judge. Was any team interested in Joe Judge? That's the difference. That's the difference. That's what's making me think that this is better than they've had. I'm not saying it's going to work. I hope it's going to work, but it's definitely a better direction than they've gone in the last 2 and 4 and 6 years, for that matter.
But doesn't Dable kind of bouncing around worry you?
He's been 4 years. 4 years with the Bills
4 years
as an offensive coordinator,
and he's got them having one of the best offensive systems in the league.
Look,
and he's been there for 4 years.
Let's look who's left in the playoffs. Okay, Andy Reid's an anomaly. Andy Reid's a great coach. He's a future Hall of Famer. Had his challenges with the Eagles. I think has been given more talent in any sport since Phil Jackson. Okay, for a team. Okay, we'll see what he does.
But he's also cultivated a winner, so that talent wants to go there.
Cultivated a winner. All right,
but I agree with you. I'm not disputing that point.
Kyle Shanahan, 42 years old, offensive coordinator with the Falcons, offensive coordinator with the Browns, head coach of the 49ers.
Right.
Okay, has one of the worst quarterbacks in the history of the game and has brought the 49ers, an offensive guy who's led the 49ers to the NFC Championship game now twice, right? Am I right?
Twice. 3 times.
3 times. Shanahan hasn't done it 3 times.
Kyle Shanahan?
Yeah. Has he done
in
it
San Francisco?
Yeah.
They've been in the championship game in the last 3 years.
Okay.
No. I'm sorry. 2 years.
2 years.
They were in the. They lost. Okay. That's right.
Zach Taylor for the Bengals. Okay. No head coaching experience. 38 years old. Mm-hmm. Okay. What's his name on the Rams? Was he a coordinator? Sean McVay, coordinator, right?
He was a coordinator he was a coach in Washington. He was a coordinator in Atlanta.
And
then a head coach.
He was the offensive coordinator of the Redskins for 3 years. Mm-hmm. Okay, less time than Brian Daboll.
By the way,
he was the offensive coordinator for the Redskins,
right?
And now has been the head coach of the Rams
and the Falcons too. He was on the Falcons staff too.
Right.
Yeah.
He was on their staff. I get it. Yeah.
And then he went to.
He wasn't. He was on the Bucks. The Redskins.
Sean McVay?
He's not listed on here as being on the Falcons staff.
That's weird.
Yeah.
But on that, I'll tell you in a minute. You had finish your thought.
My point is that they're all young guys who come from an offensive background. And
Andy Reid, of those 4 guys, Andy Reid's the only one before he got that job was a head coach before he got that job. All the other 3 guys, that was their first head coaching job. Mm-hmm. So I see your point. That's to your point. That's what you're saying, right? That's what you're going.
I'm saying at some point you have to match up. Now, all of these guys have very good GMs who know when to draft a star player. Mm-hmm. So you got Joe Burrow. In a trade you were handed. The Rams are maybe, other than Kansas City, the most stacked team, and an ownership that went out at the trade deadline and got them even more talent.
Right.
Okay.
And then after the trade deadline, they got
the 49ers. I mean, I give Shanahan, granted, he comes from a history, a family of, pretty good coaches. But he's an offensive guy who's taken probably the least talented offensive team and has been incredibly creative in crafting a winning team.
Yeah.
But they've also been a monster defensively.
Sure.
And he has something to do with that. It's not like he doesn't have something to do with
Listen,
that.
I hope
Joe Daboll is an offensive coordinator for the Bills. The Bills had the number 1 ranked defense in the NFL. So he was around that. It wasn't like he's not absorbing all of that.
Right.
Didn't help him much last week, though.
Well, they won that game, except for the fact that the NFL is ridiculous and nobody can stop anybody with 1 minute left in the game, or 13 seconds.
13 seconds in the game.
We're going to talk about that.
We're going to talk about that in a second.
Look, go ahead. Sorry.
But the other thing too is that what we're not looking at as Giants fans is because we're thinking back to the days when not everybody wants this job. Mm-hmm. And I think that Daboll is the right fit I think he's got the capability of starting from zero and building something within 2 or 3 years. Now, whether or not Daniel Jones, that's lip service or not. Look, if he turns Daniel Jones into a top 20 quarterback in the NFL and builds around a diverse team that builds upon the defense and brings a running game back, talk about the Giants way. The Giants way is playing incredibly good defense, putting pressure on the quarterback and running the ball and controlling the clock and not having to rely on your quarterback lighting it up for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns.
Smash mouth football.
The Giants have never had an elite passer. Eli Manning's a great quarterback. Don't get me wrong. I love Eli Manning, but he's not an elite passer. He's not.
Kurt Warner.
He threw some pretty good elite passes.
He did. Kurt Warner was with the Giants.
Kurt Warner played. Kurt Warner was the starting quarterback for the Giants for 9 games.
Yeah,
and then Eli Manning came in. That's it.
And Kurt Warner, didn't have, when he was with the Rams, he had a hell of a lot more talent around him. My point being is that I looked at all these guys. I think Quinn's an interesting pick. Brian Flores, to me, the problem is that for him to have started off that poorly and then turned that Miami team around and still gotten fired, that there's got to be something there. It's not like they had. There's got to be something there.
I heard
even
some
Adam
things
Gase
came.
got another year after going 6-2 in the second half. But
I heard some things out there today or yesterday or whatever that Brian Flores tended to rub other coaches on the staff the wrong way.
Look, I think Brian Flores is a great coach. He's old school. I like that. Unfortunately, people like me and Brian Flores don't make it in today's NFL. You just can't with these players. You can't.
Look, I hope I'm wrong. All I'm saying is you got the same brain trust that now has to get another GM pick right and maybe the final decision.
No, you're right. But you're not going to change the Giants' ownership.
No, it's not.
No, you're not. But I don't know.
I don't
have. If I were a Giant fan, I wouldn't have that much optimism.
But
I'm a pessimist by nature. So.
I'm more optimistic that we finally found the look. We found the bad teeth and we pulled them out.
Right.
All right. That stops the pain.
I'm more optimistic.
Right now, we've got a temporary crown in there, and we're going to see if it works.
It might fit. I'm more optimistic than I've been in the last 6 years with the Giants. I'm more optimistic about the Giants than I've been in the last 6 years. And maybe I say 5 because I didn't like McAdoo, whatever his name is, from the get-go. That should not have happened. Tom Coughlin should have been named GM. They should have gotten rid of Jerry Reese.
McAdoo was better than McAdoo. Bad as he was better than
what they
Shermer
had.
and Judge.
Right? No, you're right. But except for that first year, they went what? They went 11-5 that first year. I mean, and made the playoffs, and then everybody went on a boat and they lost to Green Bay, and that was the end of it. And that's been the Achilles heel since. But whatever. I'm from that point on, I'm more optimistic right now. And granted, it's just names. But I've seen what they did.
I want to see what he does. Yeah, I want to see what they do. Let's see what they do in the draft. Let's see what they do in off-season signings. Let's see how they build this team. Because look, nobody was saying, "Hey, look, Buffalo sure is building around the draft. Buffalo sure is making all the right choice." He operated under the radar, and yes, he maybe wasn't making those personnel decisions, but he sure as shit put together a pretty good offensive team.
Sure.
Yeah, they both have had success.
Yeah. So I think it's headed in the right direction. And I think it's cause to be optimistic about it. So we'll obviously see how things go along for the next couple months till the draft, and then so forth and so on.
I'll be honest with you. The pick of Joe Judge was more confusing to me than the pick of Daniel Jones. That's all I'm going to say. Daniel, when I heard that the Knicks picked somebody from Duke, I thought that this is a mistake. What's going on here? This can't. What?
Right.
But when I heard Joe Judge was being brought in as the Giants head coach when they announced it, that was more of a head scratcher than
it was them. It was them. Going to whatever place he was in line, if you will, them just backpedaling really quick because they were all in on Gettleman. No, what's his face from the other place? No, he's the head coach of the Matt Rule, the Panthers coach. And the Panthers swooped in and brought him in and made him sign. Gave him everything he wanted and made him sign. The Giants were all in on him. He was coming, right? But that happened, so they were like, oh, shit, what are we going to do now? They just, probably called Belichick, hey, you got a coach on your staff that we can, that'll be decent for us? Yeah, sure, I'll give you Joe Judge. Okay, cool. That's probably what happened, But I don't know. Whatever.
Right, but, okay, so by that logic, who's to say they didn't look at these guys and go, the Bills are a good team, so they must be good? Did they really do their homework on this?
Well, they certainly did interview more people this time than they've ever done before. Yeah. Everybody was always an in-house guy. The only guy that wasn't an in-house guy, and Dave Gettleman was an in-house guy too, because he was on the staff earlier than that. Whatchamacallit, the only the only GM that was not an in-house guy, was not a Giant guy, was George Young, and he was forced on them. The league said, here's your GM. Shut up. Get rid of Andy Robustelli. This is your guy. And
I think they did more homework. I think at least this time they were talking to people who the consensus of people who know the sport said should be on that list.
Sure.
Joe Judge wasn't on anybody's list.
Nobody's. That's my point. Dave Gettleman was not on anyone's list. Joe Judge or Pat Shurmur for that matter. Pat Shurmur maybe, but he had been a head coach in Cleveland, and he fell on his face there. But so he really wasn't on that many people's list, and certainly Joe Judge wasn't on anybody's list. Half the people in the league probably said, who? When they hired him.
There were a lot of owls in the room when they announced it was me.
So, but
Aaron Judge is going to coach.
Right. These two guys.
Joe Judge, isn't that the TV guy?
Right.
That's
Judge Judy, right?
Judge
Joe and Judge Judy. It's both of them. Joe Judy, yeah. Anyway, but they these two guys have been talked around the league for years about, they'll be in those positions. So there's that.
Well, we'll see how they do. I hope I'm wrong.
All right. You have anything?
I hope they clear house and make some big changes because
we will see.
Tinkering around with mediocrity is.
Well, listen. One thing he did say, he said he thinks he can build and
it's going to be a rebuilding
and win at the same time. To me, that doesn't suggest a house cleaning.
No.
Or at least not a big one.
Right.
Well, the Giants have a lot of young players. They've invested a lot in the draft. They have some draft capital.
Now they're in cap hell, though.
They gotta move some stuff. They gotta figure some stuff out. They're gonna have to
get rid of some guys.
When I say capital, I mean that they have some high draft picks.
High draft picks, yes, of course. We know.
They got great draft picks.
All right. We'll continue to watch that. Anything on the Jets? I don't think there really has been anything.
They still suck.
There you go.
They're not good yet, so they suck.
There you go. All right. Let's talk about the game.
By the way, that was a segment of two Giants fans being grilled about decision making from a Jets fan.
There you go. Exactly. We're going to keep that separated out, and then we'll make that's going to be the new segment. Yeah. All right. So the games last week. Let's start off with. We'll start off with. I'll ask that question later. Let's start out with the Tennessee game. So Tennessee versus Cincinnati. Actually, let me do this first.
The MVP won it.
Tennessee versus Cincinnati, Green Bay versus San Francisco, and Tampa Bay versus the Rams. The winners of all three of those games all won on walk-off and regulation field goals. And the Kansas City and Buffalo game was a walk-off overtime touchdown.
Yeah.
That's never happened in a playoff.
A playoff weekend.
Yeah.
It's been crazy. So,
look, if people don't believe that Joe Burrow is not the MVP of the NFL this year, then I don't know what you're watching.
I know.
Because
let's start off with the Bengals. So the Bengals, that was their first road playoff win ever for the city of Cincinnati. Their first road play. They've won playoff games before, obviously. They've got to 2 Super Bowls, but it was their first road playoff win ever. And it's the first time that they're going to be in the championship, the AFC championship game, since 1988. The other time was the 1981 season. But I'm going to give you this really quick right now. Mm-hmm. Their long snapper, Clark Harris, was 4 the last time they were in the AFC championship game.
Yeah, it's a long time ago.
Their punter, Kevin Huber, was 3 the last time they were in the championship game. He's 36. Clark Harris is 37.
The rest of them were important.
Their head coach, Zach Taylor, was 5. He's 38 when they were in the AFC championship game. No one else on that team was born when they The last time the Bengals were in the AFC Championship.
Well, for a long time.
That's how long rebuilding takes.
There you go. 33 years.
You finally, I mean, look, this could be the Giants until you finally get a draft pick right.
Right. Yeah.
The Giants just have to find the right quarterback like Joe Burrow, who can lead the league in getting sacked, but still be a phenomenal quarterback.
This is the problem for Cincinnati moving forward is if you want to have any continued success, you can't turn Joe Burrow into Andrew Luck and can't,
No, you can't.
Especially
with that offensive line, he's going to get the shit beat out of him.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. You have to find a way to protect him.
Yeah.
That means making your offensive line better.
Now, is Cincinnati a better overall team, or is Burrow just that much better than Tannehill?
I think Cincinnati. I think that look, Cincinnati sort of let Tennessee back in this game. Cincinnati was controlling it early.
Sure.
Tennessee kind of snuck back in. I thought there was a couple weird plays in there that I wish they'd let them play, keep the flags in their pockets. Yes, I think quarterbacks make a difference. I think that with the exception of the Green Bay game, I think that and this was Burrow was head and shoulders at the quarterback position better than what Tennessee had. And look, Tennessee's a great team, and they are a wonderful regular season team who's built on really good defense and maybe one of the best running backs to ever carry the ball.
Right.
But there's something about this Bengals team. They're still young and they're still figuring it out, but they are just Burrow's got that intangible where I trust him with the game on the line. He just sort of has that intangible, and much like I just felt like he has that desire to win these close games, and he's doing it.
Yeah. Tennessee actually fired yesterday or today. They fired their linebackers coach, their special teams coach, and a couple other coaches.
Yeah. Look, Tennessee did not play a bad game.
Yeah.
And Tennessee had a lot of guys coming back into the fold. Tennessee is a team that I would give their coach
plays. That's a great game.
They have a shitty quarterback.
Yeah.
I would. So does the San Francisco 49ers, and they are moving on to the championship round and probably going to the Super Bowl. Look, if anything,
it's interesting.
If anything,
foreshadowing.
No, I think that game's a toss-up, but I just don't. The 49ers just seem like a team of destiny right now. The Tennessee coaching staff should be given, all of them should be giving coach. They did more with the talent that they had than any other team in the NFL.
Right.
I think that Tennessee, he should be up for coach of the year along with Kyle Shanahan. It's that simple.
Yeah. I think Tennessee's a better team, but Joe Burrow is a star in the making. Tannehill is not.
I think the Cincinnati Bengals are a team that are much like the Bills were last year, are a team that are on the rise. Right. And they might have some,
of course,
and they've got nothing to lose.
They got nothing to lose, and they're built to win in today's NFL in the playoffs. They have more talent in the passing game. You cannot win without any assemblage of a passing game. Now, I might be proven wrong with that, with San Francisco, but that's my take on the Bengals. Is that?
Gotcha.
And look, the Bengals defense played a hell of a game.
They did.
Yep.
They definitely did. Absolutely.
And I think the Bengals outplayed Tennessee, but I don't fault Tennessee. I think Tennessee did more with the talent that they have than any other team in the NFL. Right. The season that they put together was pretty impressive based on what they had. I just don't think they're that great of a team when it comes down to, hey, we got to win. We got to win. Here's the end of the game, and we have one possession to win it. I'll put my money on Joe Burrow, and I did, and they won.
There you go. All right, cool. Well, I mean, Cincinnati's moving on, so we'll talk about them in beaten by the corn, of course. And whatchamacallit. So, Pete, you have any eye on that, or are we ready to move on to the
Cincinnati? They're nice. They're a nice story.
They're a nice story.
I think their time ends. This week, but
we'll
it's a great story.
Foreshadowing again.
How can you not like Cincinnati?
I know you're absolutely right. You're right. All
right. I'm not saying I'm going to pick against them. I'm just saying their story's over.
The story's over.
I mean, you should pick against them.
Pick them.
I'll be rooting for them.
Right.
I might pick against them, but I'll certainly be rooting for them.
There you go.
With a fervor.
There you go. Okay.
For them with a beer.
With a beer. I'll be rooting for them with a beer. There you go. Green Bay, San Francisco. All right, I will say this: special teams, no secret, sucked.
Well, they had the worst special teams all year.
Absolutely ridiculous. They gave up. They lost 16-13. That was the final score. Special teams gave up 10 points.
Yeah,
They left a field goal on the field.
All I heard all year,
and they gave up a block punt that was returned for the 7 point.
All I heard all year was how bad Green Bay's defense is, and if they just had a defense to go along with that offense,
that defense was
Green Bay's defense was the best defense out of any team that played last week.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. What'd you think of Aaron Rodgers?
Well, but they were playing against a team that has a shitty quarterback.
What'd you think of Aaron Rodgers, though?
Look, my take on Aaron Rodgers
just in general. I mean, in the game. What did you?
In the game, I felt like they got to him. They got in his head. He looked defeated from the get go.
He did after the first drive. The first drive is fine because they went right down and they scored. But after that, and it was progressive throughout the first half. And that second half of that game, he looked like he wanted to be anywhere else on the face of the earth than in that game right there. Yeah. The whole second half of the game, he couldn't have been bothered to be there. He was thinking about Shailene and going home and having a cup of hot cocoa or whatever the hell he does. But
I don't know about that. I think they got in his head a little bit. And look, Aaron Rodgers, you could say what you want about him. And look, I think he's going to go down as one of the best quarterbacks of all time. And I hope his career is not over. I hope he does come back. But I hope he comes back only if he really wants to play. And my question is, does he really want to? I don't know.
I don't know if he really wants to in Green Bay.
I felt like that whole team, I felt like they got punched by a bully and then didn't want to punch back.
And they got shell shocked and scared and they didn't want to bother the rest of the game. Yeah, that's a good way to analogize it.
I also think that there was an assumption that, hey, it's a close game, we'll win it. And they didn't have the ball at the end of the game. The other team did.
Mm-hmm.
And
all of these games came down to whoever had the ball last. Every single one, all 4 of those games came down to whoever had the ball last. That was
and when you talk about special teams, I will say that the 49ers are a team of special teams. A blocked punt, a blocked field goal, but most of their offense can even fall under special teams-ish kind of plays. Like they're not – their offensive game is handing the ball off to a wide receiver.
Yeah.
Debo
Samuel was playing
– they're a strange team. They're the strangest team I've ever seen. Even the Colin Kaepernick 49ers were more traditional than this team is.
Let me give you these numbers really quick.
But they know how to win.
You talk about Jimmy Garoppolo and being a bad quarterback. He played 2 games in New England during Tom Brady's suspension.
Sure.
Okay. He went 2-0. He played 5 games in 2017. That was a year later. After getting traded midseason to the 49ers,
we all know.
He went 5-0. In 2018, he was out for the whole season, basically. In 2019, he went to the Super Bowl. In 2020, he was hurt after a few games. And this year, he's in the championship game. So, my point is, most of the time, when he's in the game,
for this team.
They win.
Yeah, we talked about this last week. There's something, about him. He finds a ways to win. And look, you have to give a shit ton of credit to San Francisco's defense.
Sure.
Absolutely. I don't know what the rankings say, but they are the best defense in the NFC. Maybe
the best right now.
Best in the league.
Oh, with that,
they might be better. And that's why Green Bay.
Are they better than the Rams, though? We will find out on Sunday.
Yes.
No, that's a question.
Their defense is better than the Rams. The Rams' offense is.
Yeah, Green Bay ran into a phenomenal defense and couldn't figure out how to get around it.
Who's better, the Green Bay's offense or the Rams' offense?
Well, last week I would have told you Green Bay's offense, but after the last couple of weeks of the Rams, not so much.
See, the Green Bay has a lot of options, but the Rams can throw a lot of looks. They have a lot of options. They can throw a lot of looks at a defense where the defense has no idea what they're going to do.
I watched some
because of their personnel. They can put 4 or 5 guys who may touch the ball, and you have no idea which one of them is going to touch it, which one of them is going to run it, whether it's going to be a pass.
Absolutely,
I watched very, very confusing.
I watched some highlights of and some film of the game, and if you watch Matt Stafford, all right, he literally opposite, like de-telegraphed, whatever you want to call it. He was staring down a receiver, staring down a receiver, staring down a receiver, made the safeties move towards that side of the field, and then turned and threw it.
Yeah.
That was it. Either using his peripheral vision to watch or whatever he's doing, just knew the receiver would be there, boom, boom. So he totally had the secondary fooled almost every time.
I'll answer that question for you. The Rams have more talent than Green Bay.
Mm-hmm. Who's a better quarterback, Aaron Rodgers or Matt Stafford?
Up until this week, Green Bay just executed better.
Right.
The Rams are finally starting to put it together.
Who's a better quarterback, Aaron Rodgers or Matt Stafford?
Area Rodgers.
Okay.
Aaron Rodgers.
All right.
If you put
overall Aaron Rodgers right now or last week or this particular point in time, these playoffs this year, who's a better quarterback?
Well, you have to go with Aaron Rodgers played in one game, right, and lost.
I just mean in general, how they were. Yeah, I'm just saying. Obviously the answer is Matthew Stafford, but
Stafford wasn't exact. He wasn't perfect though.
No, he wasn't perfect, but
Rodgers didn't lose that game. He didn't win that game.
He didn't do anything.
The thing with Aaron Rodgers is he very rarely loses you a game. Matthew Stafford has all the potential in the world to lose a game for you.
Well, and has lost. Right. Not so much with the Rams, but there's a number of years in his former.
Sure. Well, that had more to do with his location than him.
Yes, but he was making those. I mean, they were throws made out of desperation and mistakes, but they were the kind of mistakes that you make because you don't have any other good options.
Right, and because of the desperation, because of the point you're in the game, because of the rest of your team. Right. So everything leads to that. But
there were some whispers of that last week as well.
Sure. We and to the point, like you said, as far as Tennessee got back in the game. I mean, the Rams were in complete control of that game and let Tampa back in.
Yeah. Or Tampa played pretty. Tampa, like they do.
Oh, whatever.
Often. Tampa was also missing 3 Pro Bowlers.
Sure.
On offense, and it all. I really thought that game was going overtime. Right. I mean, I just thought it was going to be another comeback.
I thought it was too
for the Bucs.
Sure.
I'll give the Rams credit. Look, the Rams and the Chiefs should both win these 2 games easily, right? Whether or not that happens or not,
I don't know about that. I wouldn't say easily.
Though they're both going to be favored pretty heavily.
Well, here's a couple of things on that. I mean, probably the thing we have to talk about the most about game wise last week was the last game was Sunday night's game, was the Chiefs-Bills game. So you talk about the Chiefs. All right, we'll start with this one. Patrick Mahomes threw for 177 yards after the 2-minute warning in the fourth quarter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There was a ton of offense after the 2-minute warning. That's
okay.
How much of that is offensive prowess, and how much of that is bad?
Is anybody just going to stop and say that this prevent defense that everybody goes
prevent
into
defense does not work? Never ever works.
Anything. And here's another thing. Okay?
The better you are at it, the worse it works for you.
This starting at the 25-yard line when the ball's kicked through the end zone, that's bullshit. We need to push that back. You need to start on the 15-yard line.
Okay. Well,
I would have said the 20.
Look, I'd say the 20. If you're going to go anywhere, go to the 20.
But let's go back to the 15.
Here's what I have to say about that.
Because the 20, that's the way it used to be.
Yeah, but now field goal kickers.
If the ball in the end zone and you took a knee,
a 50-yard field goal used to be a long field goal. It's not anymore.
It's not. Listen, here's the thing: the Bills could have won that game by doing one thing differently: squibbing the kickoff with 13 seconds
There were
left.
2 or 3 individual things that they could have done differently.
Well, no, it's specifically that one.
But that certainly would have been a big look.
They squibbed that kick. That then, when Mahomes gets the ball, probably somewhere around the same yard line, there's 7 seconds.
Well, that's assuming he gets it the same yard line.
And if he gets it, and if he gets it anywhere, and if he gets any more time than 7, like 8 or 9 or 10 seconds, then he's further back. They squib that kick, and they get it around the 10-yard line and start running it up because they don't have a choice but to, unless they just down it there. Now he's at the 10-yard line instead of the 25 with 11 or 10 seconds on the clock.
Yeah, but they also. I mean, they had.
There was other things they could have done, sure, but that one thing changed the game.
But there were 4 seconds left when they kicked the ball, right? They stopped the clock with the timeout with 4 seconds left.
Yep.
So that's theoretically 3 extra seconds that they could have had to make a play. So I don't, I mean, it was they went 45 yards in 13 seconds. It was ridiculous.
Yep.
But I think squibbing the ball.
Well, they didn't go 45 yards in 13 seconds. They went 45 yards in 9 seconds.
Right, exactly. So squibbing the ball, maybe they're going to get a little shorter because you're not going to kick it to the deep man. You're going to kick it to one of the lunky guys, right, in that first row.
Right, who's not going to run as fast. But the time starts running. And the time, unless he takes it right down.
It doesn't start until he catches the ball.
Right, but as soon as he touches the ball, the time starts. He's not in the end zone. So unless he just downs it and says, that's it.
Okay, so you kick it to him at the, let's say he catches it at the 25.
Right.
Or the 20. Mm-hmm. And he runs forward 10 yards or runs straight out of bounds or whatever.
Right. Okay,
I think it works out to roughly.
You don't have to go out of bounds because the clock will stop. It's a change of possession. So
yeah, that's
true. He gets the ball. Okay, now he gets it on the 25 and he runs it to the 35. Now they got it on the 35-yard line, but there's 7 seconds on the clock.
Yeah, I don't know.
As opposed to 13.
I don't think it takes that long though.
For a lunky guy on the 25-yard line, it does.
We're not talking about a lineman here.
No, I know, but it's still not the guy that's gonna. It's not your blazing speed guy that's back in the to receive it.
No, but he can still run the 40.
We're only talking about 6 seconds. I mean, by the time he gets down there, and he's got to get tackled too.
I think Tyreek Hill can go 60 yards in 1.3 seconds.
But if that guy gives you an extra 15 or 20 yards,
right,
and it takes you 5 seconds,
mm-hmm.
right? Well, then you don't have to. Then you only need one play to get into field goal range. Right?
I suppose.
So
6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
It all has to work out the right way.
It's too easy to march down the field and kick a field goal at the end of the game.
But I don't disagree with your point. They should have squib kicked. The Bills had a huge fucking brain fart in that respect. And then on defense, I don't know what the hell they were doing. Is the bump and run illegal now?
Well, the Giants were going to hire. Giants were going to hire the Bills' defensive coordinator
I'm saying okay, there's 13 seconds. I know these guys are fast, but why don't you put somebody on the line and hit them?
Right.
You're going to slow them down right? It's going to take them at least another second or two to start getting down the field. Yeah. Instead, they're,
they just started backing up with them.
They're 10, 12 yards off them and then back. I mean, these guys get a full head of steam.
There is no team better at getting receivers open in that, in between the first and second line. A lot of teams can do it in the middle of the field. The Chiefs do it every time along the sidelines.
Right.
And it's just the fact that they have that much talent and they're that good at it. And they're playing their best ball of the year right now. Yeah. This is the Chiefs team that everybody expected all year long. And
they're peaking at the right time.
It wasn't so much of what the Bills didn't do. What the Bills didn't do is have the ball last. Because quite honestly, if you gave Josh Allen the same chance against the Chiefs defense, I think he would have done the same thing.
I don't know. I think the Bills defense dropped the ball. No pun intended, dropped the ball.
Yeah. I agree. I agree, but I just think I was shocked, but I was less shocked because it was Kansas City. They're built for those kind of moments. They have so much speed.
Right, but I mean, but so how do you counteract that speed? Right. You slow them down at the line of scrimmage.
Break Tyreek Hill's legs in the second quarter.
Well, you just tackle him and take the pass interference call 8 yards from the line of scrimmage, and then they only get 8 yards. But
I mean, that's a smart. That's like kind of like hack-a-shack.
Yeah, I mean. Whatever they did, it was
old-time hockey. They should just
wrong.
Right.
Instead of bumping him at the line of scrimmage, just tackle him at the line.
Just grab him and throw him down.
Do that 3 times, and the clock runs out.
Well, it stopped because of the penalty, right?
All right. Let's look at a couple.
But they only have a certain amount of time to get reset. It won't stay stopped until the snap. They'll have to.
Right. Let's look at a couple other stats. Josh Allen. He's the only quarterback to ever throw 9 touchdowns and no interceptions in a 2-game postseason game span.
He's pretty good.
And he lost. Right. 25 points were scored in the last minute and 54 seconds of regulation, and then 6 in overtime. Just to point out a separate aside thing, the 25 points that were scored in the last minute and 54 seconds of regulation, The Giants, 14 of their games this year didn't score that. And if you add in the 6 points in overtime, the Giants didn't score that at all this year. So that's 31 points. But anyway.
Why do you delight in finding new ways to point out that the Giants sucked?
I just wanted to point that out. So
these are two teams that are playing to go to the conference championship, and you're like, the Giants weren't as good as either one of these.
It was pointed out to me. I just wanted to point it out to you. So anyway.
At least the Giants didn't select Sam Darnold ahead of Josh Allen.
This is true.
That's true.
The Chiefs and the Bills combined in the last 3 games they played together. The Chiefs and the Bills combined to score 198 points. Chiefs scored 100 points. The Bills scored 98 points in the last 3 games. So it's insane when you think about it. Here's one. Here's one. Both Patrick Mahomes, and Josh Allen had 300. Both of them had 300 plus passing yards, 3 plus passing touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and 50 plus rushing yards each.
Yeah, they're both really good on teams.
That's the first time opponents in the same game have ever done that. Ever.
Yeah, but it was an overtime game. So.
They're pretty good. Rub it in.
Well, I think you could take overtime off. I think the stats still all stay the same. So because clearly Josh Allen's stats they were all from regular.
He didn't have anything in
overtime. Yeah. Right. And then the only other one for that game I thought was interesting is, and I actually didn't verify this. How many yards did Stephon Diggs have in the game? I actually want to check that.
I don't know.
Hold on one second.
11.
Hold on, what the hell's going on here? All right, not sure what that was. Stephon Diggs. Yep, that's correct. I did see that right. Just want to make sure.
Okay.
Stephon Diggs waited a whole year for his revenge game against the Chiefs just to have 3 catches for 7 yards.
Yeah, they were 7 big yards.
7 big yards. There you
go.
So anyway, all right. One thing about Andy Reid I did want to say though, and I was going to bring this up before, but I waited till we got all of that talk out. Andy Reid is the first head coach since the merger to take 2 different teams to 4 straight conference championship games.
Mm-hmm.
He did it 01 through 04 with the Eagles, and since 2018 through this year with the Chiefs. So.
And this year, what's different is that should he win the next game, he has impounded all of the cars of all of his sons.
Okay, fair enough.
Well, how many Super Bowls have the Chiefs won under the privilege of Andy Reid?
One.
So they've been to 2, 1-1.
If he doesn't win this year, the Super Bowl, then he will have won exactly the same. Well, no, he didn't win any Super Bowls with Philly.
He went to one.
Went to one.
He went to one and didn't.
Didn't he win as an assistant coach?
He was an assistant coach in Green Bay.
Yeah.
Okay. He was under Mike Holmgren. So
I mean, Andy Reid is, he's won 233 games.
Yep.
He's 19-15 in the postseason. So a lot of his success is with this Kansas City Chiefs team.
Yeah. Let me ask you this.
And he should have success with this team. They're the most talented team in football.
They are. They really are. You can't doubt that. We talked about Aaron Rodgers before and what you think he's going to do. You think Tom Brady retires?
No.
Neither do I. But I found this graphic pretty interesting. Obviously,
he led the league. He led the league in passing yards.
Andy Reid?
Andy Reid did. Tom Brady did at the age of 44. I mean, it's just like that cliff that Max Kellerman was talking about. He's still climbing it.
He's still climbing it.
Yeah.
I found this is a joke, obviously, but I found this pretty funny. Here we go. Rich Ornberger put it out there, tweeted out. I figured it out. Brady announces his retirement. Then Tom Brady and Peyton Manning and Giselle will all partner and purchase the Denver Broncos. Then the Broncos will trade for Aaron Rodgers. Then the Broncos will sign Sean Payton to coach the team. Broncos win Super Bowl 57.
Well, the Broncos can get Aaron Rodgers as long as they can afford Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers. They could do all that without any of the other hubbubaloo.
Right.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. So I thought it was funny.
No, it's actually the funniest thing about that is Giselle might be the richest of that group.
I mean, fuck Aaron Rodgers.
She might end up being the majority owner.
She's the majority owner.
Tom Brady retires, buys the Broncos, comes out of retirement, and wins a Super Bowl.
That too.
Yeah, fuck Aaron Rodgers.
The owner is playing for the team.
Yeah.
He gets Aaron Rodgers and he gets Devontae Adams and then fires Aaron Rodgers.
He's the head coach too. He's the head coach, the GM, the owner, and the starting quarterback.
Right. And Gronk.
Bugs Bunny.
They signed Gronk at the trade deadline, and he comes out with his robotic leg and his.
There you go.
Catches the game-winning touchdown.
All right. Couple of interesting fun facts before we get to our picks. This is the first time in 12 seasons, that a conference title game does not feature either Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers.
What's fun about that?
Okay. The game-tying field goal drive by the Chiefs, 13 seconds, took less time than Dak Prescott's quarterback run, 14 seconds.
Okay.
Just stats I'm pointing out. The Bengals have completely sold out. I love this one. The Bengals have completely sold out of Evan McPherson jerseys. He's the place kicker, the rookie place kicker. They've completely sold out of them.
Does he get a piece of that?
There was 4 for sale.
I think he does actually.
There was 4 of them in
there was 4 of them in the gift shop. That was it.
Yeah. There's 1 on the rack and 3 that were in a box under the counter.
They ran out of his jerseys because all the Burrow jerseys were gone and on back order.
Postseason passing touchdowns. All right, since 1950. Postseason passing touchdowns since 1950. Patrick Mahomes has 25. The Detroit Lions have 24. All right. So there you go.
Yeah.
Whatchamacallit. And then these 2 things I just want to say. Aaron Rodgers said he will decide before free agency if he's going to stay or not, or go, or what he wants to do.
Who cares? Shut up and let us have an off season.
What's more of a surprise? Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay only 1 Super Bowl win, or Drew Brees and Sean Payton only 1 Super Bowl win? What's more of a surprise?
They're both as expected.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's hard to win more than 1.
No, I know. I'm saying which is more of a surprise though? Which would you have expected would have been 2?
I think only because it's more recent history, I would have expected Rodgers to win another one, only because he won it so young.
Gotcha. All right.
You could say the same thing about Peyton a You could say the same thing about, a lot of people. You could say the same thing about Aaron Rodgers' predecessor,
Sure. This is, and that's the other thing too, and I actually have this here, but I remember the graphic. This is the first time in 31 seasons, that, or I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that. If Aaron Rodgers retires, next season will be the first time in 31 years that for Green Bay that either Brett Favre or Aaron Rodgers isn't the starting quarterback. That's a long time for 2 guys to be the quarterback.
I think if he wants to play,
because they have how many championships between them?
2. They've only been to 3 Super Bowls and they each won 1.
Favre won to 2.
That's not really much of a winning history.
No.
I mean, 2 in 30 years is not bad, but.
All right, I got one thing I want to talk about before we get to beaten by the coin. I have the elephant in the room, but go ahead. Oh, give me the elephant in the room. That's fine.
All right.
I'll read this first. This will be quick. I'll read this through, and it'll be good. Has the playoffs bye week, or not even at this point you can't even say bye week because it's just the first place team. For the first place team, become undesirable?
No.
Well, there's for the last 10 years, there've 6 of the first place number 1 teams have lost in the divisional round. 4 of them have lost in the championship round. 12 of them got to the Super Bowl, but only 5 of them won. So, it's almost 500. It's almost 500.
So is it the curse of the first place? The curse of the bye week? Is that what we're talking about? Basically?
I'm saying it's the bye week or the first place team or whatever, because to look at it, the first place teams that have lost, all right, they lost to the ones that have lost in the Super Bowl. They lost to number 1s. Okay, so when I say 12 got to the Super Bowl, that was in 6 Super Bowls. Or no, it was in 5 Super Bowls and in 2 others. One of them was New England and the Giants or whatever. But the Giants were number 4 and they beat them. Green Bay was number 6 and won the Super Bowl. 6th seed and won the Super Bowl. What you call it? Baltimore won the Super Bowl in 2013, but 2012 season. And they were a fourth seed. Green Bay won. Dallas was the number 1 seed in 2016 for the NFC and lost to Green Bay in the divisional round, number 4. I can go on and on. It's about 500 to get to the Super Bowl, basically, if you're the number 1 team over the last 12 years, anyway. So, I just want to throw get your idea, get your suggestion, get your opinion, I should say.
So is it a dude? So are you asking would teams rather not be the number 1?
What do you think? You think? I mean, there seems to be a little bit more momentum.
Were the Tennessee Titans the best team in the AFC?
Were the Tennessee Titans were number 1 this year?
I know they were, but were they the best team going into the playoffs?
No. Well, of course not.
So
obviously.
The number 1 isn't always the best team,
right?
Going into the playoffs.
All right, fair enough.
50% is pretty high. How many number 1 seeds win in baseball and basketball?
Well, certainly not this past year. Yeah, it's about the same. I would say, yeah, you're right, but more often lately,
they make it a little further.
More often they make it a little further. More often lately, they've been losing in the divisional round, not in the championship round or the Super Bowl. They've been losing. They lost more in the division. First place teams lost more in the divisional round in the last 12 years than they did in the championship round of the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I say sneak in the NFC East as a wild card team at 7-11 now, whatever it's going to be, and try to win.
Yeah, I don't know if it's something you don't want.
Right. So
got to play better.
Well, the home team certainly had an advantage in the first round. Like only one road team won, right? This week, but
right.
Two road teams won.
3 road teams won.
3 road team won.
Kansas City is the only home team that won this week.
Yep, that's right.
What's the elephant in the room?
All right, here's the elephant in the room. Do they need to change the overtime rules, and if so, how?
Yeah, 2 things. Number 1, and I don't. We have to, when you kick the ball. Look.
Where to start?
All right. I'm with you.
Kickoffs. The kickers are too good now. So we have to either deepen the end zone or either have a penalty if you kick it through the end zone and make people return the kick, or if you do kick it through the end zone, the other team starts. I think in regulation, I'll give you the 20-yard line. If it's overtime, you start on the 15. I think if the place kicker kicks off, if he kicks it through the uprights, the game's over. Yeah, okay, whatever. We should put little holes in. They make it like cornhole and shit. Just put a giant cornhole thing behind the field goal post. The other thing is, yes, every team, no matter what, should just play 1 quarter of overtime.
That's the only way you can do it to make it fair. Play 1 15-minute quarter, end of story. You can make it 10 minutes if you want, but play 1 quarter and let it come down to whoever has the ball the longest. Time of possession, whatever they do. I think the only way to make it fair would be to play the whole 15 minutes because a lot of teams, if you notice, in overtime, the team that gets it will methodically drive down the field because now all the pressure's off, right? At the end of the game, they were, rushing to, boom, 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 let's tie it or whatever. Now, we got plenty of time. We got the ball first. We'll take our time. So they're running, all of a sudden, they're running like 7-8 minutes off the clock. So you do 10 minutes. The other team's getting the ball back. They got 2 minutes. The only way to make it fair is to have a full 15-minute quarter.
You only need 12 seconds to go down the field now.
10.
17.
If you've got a minute and a half and you're on your 20, you're practically goal. If you
this idea that if you kick a field goal, the other team gets the ball, but if you score a touchdown, look, I get it. It's just,
you hold them back, you hold them out of the end zone, make them kick a field goal, and then you got to go down and match it at least. So I don't know. I mean, it has a lot to do with a lot to do with defense too. I mean, defense is part of the game, so if you can't stop them, look, this game on Sunday night. This is why we're talking about it, right? And I want to question too, and I'm not saying I don't agree with you. I'm not saying that, but my question is this: if the Bills won the game, the opposite way, if the Bills won the coin toss, and they went down and scored a touchdown, would there be as big an uproar? Would the Chiefs fans and everybody else be doing the same thing that the Bills fans?
Oh, you would definitely hear from those goddamn fucking Chiefs fans. I can hear them right now.
All right,
what? Jesus Christ!
But
they all live here. Go back to Kansas City.
I just think because the Bills were so much of like a a fan favorite this year because of what's going on, because of Josh Allen, because of everything they're doing there. I think it's more over the top. But here's my point.
I think it's also because the Chiefs came down with 6 seconds left,
right,
and kicked the field goal.
Of course,
the Bills had won the game, then got the ball first and won the game.
No, I got you. But here's my thing. That game was an anomaly. All right, it really was, because you're talking about 2 quarterbacks, 2 high-profile offenses that have done things. The stats I just read, they've done things that no other team, let alone teams,
a regular season Pittsburgh Cleveland game, you might not want a full quarter.
Right. So that was an anomaly. That doesn't happen. Really, I'm not going to say often, ever. That doesn't happen. Okay? So the defense on the field, if you're in a divisional playoff game, your defense should be good enough to hopefully get a stop.
All right, well, let me ask you this. In baseball, in extra innings, does the home team get a chance to bat?
Sure. No.
Okay.
I get it. That's why I'm saying
the team who scored first in the NBA win in overtime?
I get you. The only thing I'm saying, excuse me, I'm screaming.
In tennis, you still have to go 7-6.
I got you. But we got to wrap this up because we're 2:10 already. We haven't even done our picks, and we got the top 10 listed down.
Yeah, we could do the top 10 next week.
Which we call, well, we can't. I'm already wearing the jersey, so we can go through it. The top 10's quick anyway. But anyway, my point is the only fair way to do it, and I agree with you, it should change. The only fair way to do it is to play one whole quarter.
All right.
And
we agreed on that. We agreed on that.
If it's tied at the end of a quarter, then you have to do sudden death. Then you have to do. But
then you're right back where you started.
Well, would you get to play until 5 o'clock in the morning until everybody gets tired?
What's the odds of it being tied after 1 quarter? Come on.
Right.
What are the odds of it being tied after 4 quarters?
Pretty high.
Here's my solution, and no one will ever do this, of course, but it's the best solution possible.
Go for it.
If you want to go 15, okay. We play the full quarter till the end. If they're still tied, you start with extra point distance, and the kickers go at it.
No.
Extra point distance, and then the next kick you add 5 yards. And then the next kick you add 5 yards.
Let's not make football a communist sport.
No, it's hockey.
What is a more fair way? What is a more fair way to resolve the game?
Yeah, because then it all comes down to your kicker.
You start with one.
You can't do sudden death.
You start with one. You start with 1:15. And if it's still tied, you go to a 10-minute quarter, and after that, you go to a.
No, you can't do that with football though, because these guys get killed.
Well, fuck them. They get paid a lot of money.
Well, that was my first thought.
Kickers already dictate the game too much.
Just gladiator it out like they do in hockey.
How about we just have Jello wrestling with the offensive linemen? Come on, let's make it more interesting. And kickers.
We could have the cheerleaders and have a cat fight in the middle of the field.
Mud,
but
I think we should have each team gets to pick one offensive lineman, and whoever can throw the opponent's kicker the farthest wins the game.
Or maybe they pick their best guy for a fist fight, like in
it's like a
West Side Story.
It's like a kicker's shot put.
I think the kickers go at it.
Just a fight?
No, they're kicking.
No.
Because, look, you still have the opportunity for a block kick. You're still having offense and defense on the field. Mm-hmm. Whoever kicks farthest.
Bunch of communist soccer players dictating a win and whoever wins a game.
All right.
All right, so we'll just have it the way it is now.
Kickers dictating who wins the game in regulation during overtime. Yeah.
Well, not in the biggest game of the week, which was decided in overtime by one team having the ball and the other team getting the shaft.
Exactly.
I mean, the only other way to do it is to say, okay, if you get the ball, it might also change. You know, if you win the coin toss, somebody might choose to not get the ball first.
True. Very true.
But nobody does that anymore because who can trust their defense and not right? Who can trust their defense? Maybe San Francisco, but
that's right. The
49ers are like, nope, you can have the ball.
What? We're gonna leave this up to special teams? Oh, we got this.
All right. Let's do our picks for the championship weekend here. What do you think? All right. Beaten by the coin.
I'm sure I'll lose to the coin.
I think it's officially over.
No one wants to be beaten by the coin.
There you go.
It's officially over, right? I'm done.
I think not technically.
Okay.
Well, here we go.
Not technically. All right. Well, despite the fact that no one wants to be beaten by the coin,
not even Josh Allen. Josh Allen got beaten by the coin this week.
All of us were, in fact, beaten by the coin last week.
We were.
But it was interesting. Yours truly going 1-3. Harry, unfortunately, we agreed a little too much. and you were not able to pick up any ground. But now John and I tied. Harry, you're only 2 games back, so here's what, and the coin back to 4 games under 500. Now, here's what I think we should do for this week.
Go for it.
We have 2 games.
We have 2 games, yes.
I think John should pick 1 game first, me second, Harry third, and then I should pick the other game first, John second, Harry third. The reason for that is so that you and I can each have a shot, whatever, and then we can decide whether the second person picking can decide whether they want to go against it or whatever.
Gotcha.
Harry can go last because if you and I happen to agree, then he can, out of desperation, pick the opposite.
Well, he kind of almost has to, right? Because even if he's got to basically, win both games this weekend, and you and I have to lose both games this weekend just for him to tie us.
Right, but and you and I
have
would
a chance to
agree,
win,
which I don't think we're going to do.
We'll see.
But my point is, if he goes last, then he knows where we are.
We are, yeah.
And he can say, okay, well, they disagree, so I'm going to pick who I really think is going to win because I agree with John or I agree with Pete. Right. If we both agree, and he goes, all right, well, here's a chance for me to pick up a game, so I'll take the opposite team. So that's what I think we should do.
Well, let's do it.
All right.
So
I will defer to you and let you choose which game you would like to.
I will start with the AFC championship game since it's the first game because the NFC is the night game. So
hold on. I pulled up the wrong thing here.
All right. There you go. Got it.
Oh, wait.
I'm waiting.
Now, why is this wrong? All right, I'll just have to write it down.
No worries.
I did not prepare the sheet correctly. All right, so who's playing? I'm not sure. So it's Cincinnati
at Kansas City.
Cincinnati at Kansas City. All right, is that you want to pick that one first, or me to pick that one?
Well, I'll pick it first. If you're deferring to me, I'll pick it first, and you can.
You can pick either one first. You have choice of which game you want to pick.
I'll pick that one first, and I'm going to go. The Chiefs will win the game.
Okay, so John is picking Kansas City. Yeah, I gotta go with Kansas City.
Right.
Harry?
Oh, Kansas City's going to win, but I'm going to take the Bengals.
I'll take the Bengals. There we go. My plan is working perfectly. See?
I mean,
there you go.
Even if I win, it doesn't matter. So, just padding my stats.
There you go.
Yeah.
I'll take a few losses for the chance
for the greater good.
You could end up tied for second.
You could.
All right. Coin says heads.
That's Kansas City.
Yes. Okay.
All right.
All right. So the next game is San Francisco at the Rams.
San Francisco at the Rams. So you pick that one. Go.
Man. Let me stall by writing everyone's initials down while I think about it.
While you think about what you want to pick.
Well, listen, the Rams have let me down, but they were my sole win last week.
This is true.
So they didn't let you down.
So they didn't let me down last week. They let me down, I think, this season more than they have not let me down. They're good.
Do you trust old Matty Stafford to bring you to the promised land, Pete?
They're a really good team.
They are. Maybe the second most talent besides the Chiefs. Probably the most talent when it comes to the defensive side of the ball.
There you go.
And the moves that they have made
are like Jagger.
Really are coming together. Although Von Miller was ineffective.
Just picture OBJ catching that winning touchdown.
I picture him throwing.
One hand.
I picture him throwing
the winning touchdown.
To Matthew Stafford.
Yes,
Matthew Stafford getting hit in the kidneys and knocked out of the game.
Well, actually, I think he throws the ball downfield. It bounces off Stafford's helmet, and OBJ, who's been charging
the hold
catches
it.
it.
Tyreek Hill catches it.
Yeah.
All right, there you go.
However, San Francisco's defense is really good.
You think?
Green Bay is a very talented team.
This is true.
And Aaron Rodgers is a better quarterback than Matthew Stafford. Although the Rams, they give you so many crazy. I've been doing this for the past 4 days, by the way.
You've been back and forth like
having
crazy.
this
talking to yourself in a room.
Yeah. That's
how you make your living with OnlyFans. So.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go.
It really has. Really, the down this week, OnlyFans, the content is not as riveting.
It's not as riveting. I got you. Yeah.
Me talking about who's going to win this game. Not doing it for my OnlyFans folks.
Who are you taking?
Jimmy G's got another. Remember, Jimmy G had a shoulder and a hand injury. Doesn't mean he's good and he was hurt, but He's mediocre, but he was hurt.
Right.
And he finds ways to win.
He does.
He doesn't, but his team does.
Well, the team.
Yeah, but he's the leader of the team. He's the most important,
Is he?
That's true.
He's
I
the
think
quarterback.
Deebo Samuel is.
Well, he's the quarterback.
6-1. So who are you taking?
I'm going to take San Francisco.
All right.
Ooh.
I think
interesting.
I think the defense is good enough to slow the Rams down. And honestly, I wanted to pick them last week, but I didn't have the stones to do it.
Right.
And I just thought to myself, if they can keep it close to Green Bay through the first half, they've got a shot.
And they did.
And they did. And I'm gonna go with them. And
all right.
Fuck the Rams.
There you go. All right. I'll give you mine. Ready?
Yes.
All right. San Francisco's luck runs out. Rams win.
Okay.
All right.
So it doesn't really matter what I choose because.
Well, you'll be within one game of one of us.
You'll be within one game of one of us, and we still have the Super Bowl to go.
We still have the Super Bowl.
We could all end up
up tied.
Yeah, which would be not the coin, obviously, but
that would be pretty.
I hate putting my money on Matthew Stafford. I just don't have the faith a lot of other people do.
It's hard,
and the fact that weirdo with the giant ears loves him so much on ESPN. Who was the 9th string quarterback who somehow got a job being the NFL expert? Dan Orlovsky or whatever his name is.
Dan Orlovsky, yeah. Rich Orlovsky.
Is that his name?
Oh, no,
yeah,
it's
Dan Orlovsky.
Yeah, he's way high on them. I heard him on the K show or whatever.
So, who you picking, Harry? Who you picking?
Rams are going to win this game.
There you go.
All right, let's see what Mr. Washington has to say. Washington says tails.
Washington's with you in Frisco.
Picking the 49ers.
Oh,
the
congratulations
team
to
of
both
destiny.
of you. I think anytime.
Oh, the coin was on fire last week.
The coin knew what it was doing.
Yeah. And I was not.
Let's put it this way: the coin is usually doesn't pick the favorites. So any week where there's upsets, the coin does well.
Right.
Yeah,
this is true.
That's true. So there you have it, folks.
So there you have it. So we got me, you, and I, Pete. We got the Chiefs, and Harry's got the Bengals. And Harry, you and I have the Rams, and Pete has the Niners.
So one of us will be in first, and one of us
will be. One of us will be in first, and then one of us will be
in first. One of us will be in second, and one of us will be in third.
No. But Harry, you can either be in second, you can either be in third, tied for second, or tied for first.
Yeah. Look at me.
Depending on how you look at it.
That's true. If the Bengals win...
I'm like the San Francisco 49ers of picking.
There you go.
If the Bengals win and the Rams win, then Harry and I will be tied.
There you go.
That's right.
Is that right? Yeah, that's right.
That is right.
How about that?
All right. Cool. All right. That brings us to this week's top 10 list. And, of course, we'll get through it. We have 11 on the list tonight. So it's not a 12 or a 13er. It's 11. So our top 10 list tonight is top 10 San Diego / Los Angeles Chargers of all time. Top 10 San Diego / Los Angeles Chargers of all time. We're going to start with, we have a tie at number 4, actually. That's our 11th. Tie at number 4. So we'll start with number 10. Number 10 is Mr. Walt Sweeney. Walter Francis Sweeney, to be exact. He was a guard out of Syracuse, drafted in the first round, second pick overall, 1963 draft by the Chargers. Played 11 seasons with the Chargers, and then a couple of seasons went to Washington after that. He was an AFL champion in 63, 9-time Pro Bowler, 2-time first-team All-Pro, 4-time second-team All-Pro. He was AFL all-time second team. He's in the Chargers Hall of Fame, and he's a member of the Chargers 50th anniversary team. Walt Sweeney, number 10 on our list tonight. Bring us to number 9. Number 9 tonight is Leslie O'Neal. Leslie Claudius O'Neal, to be exact. He was a defensive end and a linebacker out of Oklahoma State, drafted in the first round of the 8th pick overall in the 86 draft. Played for 10 years, 10 seasons with the Chargers, and then a couple years with the St. Louis Rams, and a couple years with the Chiefs after that as well. Defensive Rookie of the Year in 86, 3-time second-team All-Pro, 6-time Pro Bowler. He's in the Chargers Hall of Fame. He's a member of the 50th anniversary team of the Chargers, the 40th anniversary team of the Chargers, and he's in the College Football Hall of Fame. Leslie O'Neal, number 9. That brings us to number 8. Number 8 is Mr. Charlie Joyner. Charles B. Joyner Jr., wide receiver out of Grambling, drafted in the 4th round of the 69 draft by the Houston Oilers. Played for 4 seasons with the Oilers. And then he went to the Bengals and played for 4 seasons with the Bengals before wrapping up his career with 11 years on the Chargers. So, that if you count that, that's 19-year career he had, 19 years. He was also a coach after that, too. He was first-team All-Pro in 1980. He was a one-time second-team All-Pro as well. 3-time Pro Bowler. He's in the Chargers Hall of Fame, and he is indeed in Canton in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Number 8, Charlie Joyner. Brings us to number 7. Number 7 is Mr. Ron Mix. Ronald Jack Mix, to be exact.
That's Mr. 7.
That's Mr. 7 tonight. Mr. 7 is Ronald Jack Mix, Ron Mix. Offensive tackle out of USC, drafted in the 1st round of the 1960 draft. And he played for the Chargers for 10 seasons, 1960 through 69. Then played for a year with the Raiders as well. AFL champion in 63, 8-time AFL All-Star, 8-time All-AFL, 9-time All-AFL, All-AFL team, and a member of the All-AFL team. And he's in the Chargers Hall of Fame. And, of course, he is indeed in Canton in the Pro Football Hall of Fame as well. Mr. 7 and 8, Mr. Ron Mix. All right, that gets us to number 6. Number 6 is Mr. Kellen Winslow. Kellen Boswell Winslow Sr. Tight end out of Missouri, drafted in the 1st round with the 13th pick in the 1979 draft. Played his entire 9-year career with the San Diego Chargers. He's a first-team All-Pro, a 3-time first-team All-Pro, and a 1-time second-team All-Pro, 5-time Pro Bowler, 2-time NFL receptions leader, member of the 80s All-Decade team, the 75th anniversary team, the 100th anniversary team. He's in the Chargers Hall of Fame, and he is indeed in Canton, Ohio, in the Pro Football Hall of Fame as well. Number 6, Mr. Kellen Winslow. Brings us to number 5. Number 5 is none other than Mr. Philip Rivers. Philip Michael Rivers, quarterback out of NC State. Drafted in the 1st round with the 4th pick overall by the New York Giants, who traded him promptly to the San Diego Chargers in exchange for Mr. Eli Manning. I played on the Chargers for 16 seasons, and then 1 season with the Indianapolis Colts as well, which was last year, not this past year, year before, 2020. Comeback Player of the Year in 2013, 8-time Pro Bowler, NFL passing yards leader in 2010, passing touchdowns co-leader in 08, passer rating leader in 08, completion percentage leader in 2013. He's a member of the Chargers' 50th anniversary team, and he is not in Canton yet since he just retired last year, but one would assume at some point he will probably get in. So, Philip Michael Rivers, number 5 on our list. That brings us to number 4, and we have a 2-way tie for number 4. Our first one is yet another quarterback, is Mr. Dan Fouts. There he is, Daniel Francis Fouts, quarterback out of Oregon, drafted in the 3rd round of the 73 draft. Played his entire 15-year career with the San Diego Chargers. He was the Offensive Player of the Year in 82, 2-time first-team All-Pro, 2-time second-team All-Pro, 6-time Pro Bowler, 4-time NFL passing yards leader, 2-time NFL passing touchdowns leader, NFL completion percentage leader in 1979. He's a member of the 80s All-Decade team. His number 14 is retired with the Chargers. He's in the Chargers Hall of Fame, and he was on the 50th anniversary team for the Chargers as well, and he is in Canton in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Tied for number 4 on our list tonight, Mr. Dan Fouts. Also tied for number 4 is Mr. Lance Allworth. Lance Bambi Dwight Allworth, to be exact. Bambi is a nickname. I don't think it's on his birth certificate. Wide receiver out of Arkansas, drafted in the 2nd round of the AFL draft with the 9th pick overall. The Chargers played for the Chargers for 9 seasons, and then he went to the Cowboys for a couple of years too before he finished his career. He's a Super Bowl champion in Super Bowl 6 with the Cowboys, of course. He's a member of the NFL 75th anniversary team, the 100th anniversary team. He's an AFL champion in 63, 7-time AFL All-Star, 6-time first-team All-AFL, one-time second-team All-AFL, AFL Player of the Year in 63, three-time AFL receiving yards leader, three-time AFL receptions leader, three-time AFL receiving touchdowns leader. He's made the All-AFL team. His number 19 is retired with the Chargers. He's in the Chargers Hall of Fame, and, of course, he's in Canton in the Pro Football Hall of Fame as well. Also tied for number 4, Mr. Lance Allworth. All right, that brings us to our top 3. Number 3 is none other than Mr. Antonio Gates. Antonio Ethan Gates Sr., tight end out of Kent State, went undrafted in 2003, and the Chargers signed him promptly to a 16-year career. 3-time first-team All-Pro, 2-time second-team All-Pro, 8-time Pro Bowler, NFL 2000s All-Decade Team. He's on the Chargers' 50th anniversary team, and yet, of course, he is not in Canton. One would expect him to be pretty quickly, but he is not eligible for another couple of years. So, number 3 on our list tonight, Mr. Antonio Gates. That brings us to number 2. Number 2 on our list tonight is Mr. LaDainian Tomlinson, the other LT. LaDainian Tarshain Tomlinson, running back out of TCU, drafted in the first round with the 5th pick overall in the 2001 draft by the Chargers. He played for 9 seasons with the Chargers and then went to the Jets and played for a couple of years to wind up his career. NFL Most Valuable Player in 06, Offensive Player of the Year in 06, Walter Payton Man of the Year in 06, 3-time first-team All-Pro, 3-time second-team All-Pro, 5-time Pro Bowler, Bart Starr Award winner, and Burt Bell Award winner. 2-time NFL rushing touchdowns leader, 3-time NFL rushing yards leader, or 2-time yards leader, 3-time touchdowns leader. And scoring leader in 06. Member of the 2000s All-Decade Team. His number 21 is retired with the Chargers, and he is in the Chargers Hall of Fame. Couple of NFL records. 28 rushing touchdowns in a season in 2006. 31 touchdowns from scrimmage in a season, 2006. 18 consecutive games with a touchdown. He's tied for that one. And 186 points in a single season he scored in 2006. Crazy stats in 2006. That was a great year, you could say, for him. And he's also in Canton in the Pro Football Hall of Fame as well. Number 2, LaDainian Tomlinson. And our number 1 on our list tonight is Mr. Junior Seau. Tayana, I believe, Ball Seau Jr., and his nickname, of course, is Junior. So Junior Seau.
Well, they called him Junior because no one could pronounce his name.
Right. Linebacker out of USC, drafted in the first round with the 5th pick overall in the 1990 draft. He played for 13 seasons with the Chargers. Then he played for 3 seasons with the Dolphins and 4 seasons finishing up his career with the Patriots. So he had a 20-year career. NFL Defensive Player of the Year in 92. 6-time first-team All-Pro. 3-time second-team All-Pro. He was a 12-time Pro Bowler, 12 years straight. NFL Man of the Year in 94. 90s All-Decade Team, 100th Anniversary Team, both the NFL. His Chargers number 55 is retired. He's in the Chargers Hall of Fame. And, of course, he is indeed in Canton as well in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Number 1 on our list tonight, Mr. Junior Seau. All right. That should bring us to anything you guys want to talk about with Junior?
No, I mean, just this whole list, a lot of Hall of Famers.
A lot of Hall of Famers.
2 guys, another Hall of Famer who, I think just missed this list. 2 defensive guys who are incredible. Fred Dean, who's in Canton, a 3-time Pro Bowler, 2-time first-team All-Pro. Mm-hmm. And Earl Faison, who's 5-time All-Pro and 4-time first-team All-Pro and 5-time Pro Bowler. They've had some pretty good defensive. Pretty good defensive linemen over the years, as well as offensive linemen and the usual names. I think for the amount of Hall of Famers that they have, for this team to still never have won a Super Bowl is just pretty crazy.
Absolutely. Yeah. They've only been to 1. That's it. Yeah. So, all right. Well, that brings us to tonight's Old Balls.
Old Balls.
Harry, why don't you tell us who this week's Old Balls recipient is?
This week's Old Balls recipient is Louis Kelcher, who was defensive tackle for the Chargers. He was drafted by the Chargers in, I believe, the 5th round?
Second round.
Sorry. He was a 4-time All-Pro, 3-time Pro Bowler, And Dan Fouts was on record as saying he was the most beloved player on their team during his years on the Chargers. Look, he went on. He played for the Chargers for, I think, 9 years. And then went to the San Francisco 49ers in 1884 and just happened to win a Super Bowl with them. So he was, 6'5", 290 pounds, which at the time was pretty big. He wore a size 17 triple E shoes. So
it's a big foot.
There's a reason why he was popular. He was selected.
Yeah, he wore big gloves too.
Yeah, I mean, he's part of the San Diego Chargers 50th anniversary team and their 40th anniversary team, and he's obviously in the Chargers Hall of Fame. Again, another guy who just played along with Fred Dean and Gary Big Hands Johnson. And I don't think, the Chargers were known during that time for their offense, but he was part of a defensive line that led the NFL in sacks that year. The Chargers had 60 sacks in 1980.
There you go.
So both Johnson and Dean were named first-team All-Pro, with Kelcher being named second-team All-Pro. Mm-hmm. And they happened to add a guy named Leroy Jones, and they had one of the best defensive front lines, I think, in the history of the NFL. Mm-hmm. So he's kind of goes a little unnoticed, but pretty good career. Good career, and certainly a guy who's just perfectly fit for being an Old Balls recipient.
There you go. Big Hands Johnson and Bigfoot Kelcher.
That's right. They just stuck their hands and feet out, and everybody tripped over them.
There you go. All right. There you go. Well, that's tonight's Old Balls.
Old Balls.
All right. Well, there you have it. We got a couple seconds. Anybody interested in talking some NBA, or you want to just save it for next week? There's not really much going on. We got the
Nuggets beat the Nets. The Nets didn't play anybody.
Yeah, listen.
I guess James Harden is hurt now. Or do they have to say he's hurt because they can't say they're resting him for load management?
He's unhappy.
Well,
but I don't think they're going to come out and say that.
So am I.
He's unhappy. The report is that James Harden wants to test free agency because he allegedly doesn't like Kyrie being part-time. He doesn't like Steve Nash's rotations. Yeah. And he doesn't like the weather or the taxes in New York either. So
he said of New York, it's okay.
Right. He says that it's just because he's frustrated because he wants to win because he's a competitor. That's
this from a guy who spent his previous years in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Look, he's whatever. The Nets, I think it's getting safer and safer to say the Nets are just not going to win with the big three combination. It's going to be another.
I don't know. They were a toenail away from going to the finals last year.
Yeah, but they just can't get it together, man. They can't get all three guys on the court at the same time.
They don't really need to get it together until the playoffs.
This is true. Yeah, well, like you said, maybe that's what they're doing, under the radar kind of thing. Did you hear?
I don't think it's going to happen.
Shaq last week or the other day said the Lakers and the Nets can't be judged because of all the injuries, right? And then Dwayne Wade said the Heat haven't been at full strength all year and they're in first.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I think the difference is that the Lakers and the Nets really rely on two players, 3 on the Nets, 2 on the Lakers, and if they're not on the court at the same time, it becomes a challenge. Whereas, look, Miami's got some superstars in Jimmy Butler and others, but they're a defensive-oriented team who seems to, they're okay with the diversity of who it is that steps up every night. They signed PJ Tucker. They got what's his name in the backcourt who's not playing right now, who's hurt, who did they get from Toronto? Anyway, the Heat made some good moves in the offseason. They've got a really a guy who's playing exceptional defense in Bam Adebayo. And look, they were missing some starters tonight too, and they still put the Knicks away pretty easy. So
it's true. Well,
yeah. Only other thing I'll say is Joker's great, no question about that.
Joker and Embiid. I mean,
Joel Embiid.
Have there ever been two guys who are literally carrying their team on their shoulders right now.
Absolutely.
I mean, they both look like Embiid always looks like he's just been dragged, behind a dumpster for 3 miles. Right. But they both kind of look like that now. And yet they both, I'm the biggest Jokic fan. This last week, Joel Embiid has maybe played the best basketball I've ever seen anybody play.
Yeah. Here's Joel Embiid's point totals from the last 5 games. 32, 50, 40, 38, 42. And they're going against the Lakers tonight.
That's crazy.
Who have Anthony Davis. I mean, he's just, we talked about him keeping the team in it, right?
Yeah.
When nobody else. The only thing is, can he stay healthy?
Yeah.
But that's a big thing.
If he can stay healthy, that's going to be very, very interesting as far as MVP. But
this is true.
You got to put him in the mix.
Yeah, Jokic just had an average. He's a center, by the way. Let's not forget he's a center.
Right.
He's doing this as a center.
26, 10, and 8.
Almost like as a catcher.
Yeah, just 26, 10, and 8.
Yeah, no, he's phenomenal.
Yeah. Unlike DraftKings and things where you could it's not even that big of a bet anymore for him to get a triple-double. Like the odds are not that high. It's just it's incredible. I mean, he is just a machine right now. And I don't know if you guys saw there was a game that the Nuggets took it into overtime earlier in the week, and it was just all him. And then at the end of the game, what does he do? He makes one of the most impressive passes I've ever seen cross court to Aaron Gordon, who hits the game winner in overtime. They came down from, I think, 18 down in the third. Triple double. I mean, he's just it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable what he's doing. I mean, the other person I think, and he's missed some games, but the other guy who I think has to be in the MVP conversation, other than Ja Morant, is LeBron James.
Yeah.
I mean, when he's out there, he is just. I mean, I think LeBron's second or third in the league in scoring. When was the last time LeBron James was in the top 5 in scoring? I mean, he can be every year he wants to be, but he usually doesn't have to be.
Right.
And I don't know. It's a long season. I still think Phoenix just keeps winning ball games.
We're saying it every week, and it's not changing. So, it's not. So
yeah, I heard today they were talking about Carmelo. And he's averaging, I guess, about 14 points a game. And he's like the oldest or one of the oldest players to average. And then they were like, yeah. And then you have LeBron, who's a couple years older, who's averaging over 30.
Right. Exactly.
I think they're the same age, but
yeah, pretty close. So
yeah,
that's crazy.
I mean, it's just, I don't know.
Yeah, he's a physical.
I know the championships are always a part of the discussion, but to me, it's getting farther and farther away from who's the greatest of all time. It's leaning more towards LeBron. And I know it's a different era with Jordan and all that stuff. I don't want to get into that whole thing, but
yeah.
I mean, if you count more than just championships, there's a lot of weight on both sides of that scale, but
yeah, I mean, LeBron's certainly in that mix, but I think there's other players that we forget about that are in that mix too. I mean, I certainly put Kobe in there. I think people forget about Kareem and Wilt. I think people forget about Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. But yeah, I mean, LeBron, the one thing that since his early in his career, LeBron had what Michael Jordan had. He had a team that didn't have a lot of talent, that was all about him. And then slowly Jordan got a couple of missing pieces and started to become more of a team player and started winning championships. Jordan didn't win that many championships out of the gate.
Right.
How many years?
He didn't win till his 7th season, I think.
7th or 8th season.
Yeah. And he needed a number 2.
Right.
And then some role players.
And he got some really great role players. Yeah, and I would argue one of his role players might have been, people like Horace Grant, not just a role player, but, a pretty big part of that puzzle.
Right.
LeBron, what's going to hurt his legacy is he's sort of the guy who started this, let's go build the team together.
Yep.
Let's go dictate where we're going to play and who we're going to play with.
Yeah,
and look,
that's pretty much it.
I was watching the Lakers and Celtics from the 80s the other day. Larry Bird and Magic Johnson had more talent around them than LeBron James ever did.
Yeah.
So I'm not holding that against him, but at the end of the day, yeah, I hate to say this because but there was just some intangible with Jordan. And I think the brevity, the fact that Jordan never lost, he didn't go to as many, right. Never lost, except that one season when he lost in the playoffs after he played half a year of baseball to Shaq in Orlando. There's something that resonates, I think, in history with Jordan because of that. When he went to the finals, he won. And Kobe and LeBron can't say that. Nobody else can say that. But there's a lot of people, and I think there's as LeBron gets older and his legacy grows, there's going to be many more people who don't remember Jordan and who remember LeBron, who are going to place LeBron in higher regard than Michael or anybody else.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, we'll.
I mean, there's no right answer ultimately, but
we can. It's the great debate, right? We can keep this going for
quick. I don't think about it too long, but who's the surprise team in the NBA so far at this point? Who's your surprise team? Most important, most improved team? Heat. Okay.
Heat. I'd say the Heat. That's mine.
Heat.
I'd say the Bulls.
I'm going with the Cleveland Cavaliers, who are 1.5 games out of first place in the East and are 30-19. The Cleveland Cavaliers are ahead of the Nets right now in the East.
Yeah, listen, the Nets are 10 games over 500, and they don't get their shit together. I mean, they're still going to be in the playoffs, but
I mean, you got to give Cleveland props. They did a really good job rebuilding a team there after they were kind of left for dead.
Well, look at it this way: the three of us picked the 1, 2, and 3 seeds in the East right now. So
yeah. Well, I think had we done it 3 weeks ago, my pick still would have been Cleveland, and it would have been a little bit more shocking. But
I probably would have said
the
Heat then too. So
you can talk about the Grizzlies in the West. Maybe
I think the Grizzlies too.
Grizzlies would be my West.
But the Grizzlies made it to the playoffs last year.
Yeah. Actually, somebody on the radio today was saying LeBron's gonna. I forget what his contract is in LA, but I think he could get out of his contract maybe after next year and then go back to Cleveland, try and win another championship there.
You go. Bring one home to Cleveland
again.
Because
the Cavs got some good players now. So.
I hate to say it, but I think LeBron's. I think LeBron has maybe 2 seasons left in him.
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, he's playing great.
Well, that would make sense to what Pete said. He could get out of his contract after next year, then go back to Cleveland, win it in Cleveland, retire. That'd be great if Cleveland wins it the year before he gets there. He comes back and they sell off the team.
They sell off all the good pieces.
To get an 87-year-old LeBron. Meanwhile, that same year, Tom Brady wins his 12th Super Bowl.
Yeah, I don't think Brady's going to retire until he wins again.
Yeah. Brady's just going to, he's going to start playing baseball or something.
I think he's baseball. I think he's pushing that 45 number. He said he wanted to play those 45. I think he's making that 50 now.
Look, what I will say this about Tampa Bay is that had they been at full strength, I think they win that game. So why wouldn't you come back? They're not going to,
he's coming back, and Aaron Rodgers is coming back too.
Yeah,
Aaron
Rodgers. It's not like they went out in embarrassing fashion or anything like that. They were,
and Brady had a great game. I mean, he brought the team back like he always does. I mean, I just wish Tampa Bay this year didn't dig themselves a hole so often.
Yeah. All right. Well, there you go. And just one note on hockey: Rangers keep winning. So
Rangers look good. Avalanche look pretty good.
Avalanche look good
Didn't
too.
We say they're not winning last week.
The top 4 teams in the entire league are the Rangers, the Panthers, the Lightning, and the Avalanche. So there you go. All right. Anything else, you guys? We don't have an over/under tonight, do we?
Oh, I do actually.
You got 3 minutes. Do it.
All right. So I have here a box of screws.
Box of screws.
Box of screws.
There you go.
These are flathead Phillips number 10 by 2-inch screws.
All right.
And they were originally 50 in the pack.
Okay.
It has been opened. I'm going to pull the label off the. That's not really going to help that much, but I'll hold it up so you can kind of see. Let's see if I can do this. So you can kind of see how many are still in.
All right, cool.
Without counting. So there were originally 50.
Right. That's
them
now.
Roughly how many are left?
What's the over-under?
Hard to see with the label in the way, but.
What's the over-under?
The over-under is 25.
All right.
And a half. Oh, wait. I got to go half?
Sure.
Right? All right. So 24 and a half.
24 and a half. All right.
So are there less than 50% or more than 50% left?
I'm going under.
Going under.
All right. I am going to go. I'm going to go under 2.
I'm going to go under 2. I should have counted them, I guess.
Oh God, you counted.
No, I did actually prep. You are both right.
Yes.
The answer is 21.
I was going to guess 20. That was my guess.
Yeah. So there you go.
20 was my my magic number. If you said that or lower, I was going to go over and blah 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 blah. So.
Oh,
nice.
There you go.
Good over under.
Yeah, nice
there
one.
you go.
That was good.
Who'd you steal that box of screws from? So.
Oh man, you don't know. I got 29 boxes of screws. When I need a screw, I just go buy a whole new box.
29 boxes of screws. Yeah.
29 boxes of screws on the wall.
29 boxes.
Doesn't have a drill. Every time he needs a screw, he buys 50 more.
Oh, so here's something funny. We're gonna run out of time.
No, you can say one thing funny and then we'll wrap it up.
All right. So I have this toilet.
Yeah.
That has a
He's got the whole thing in pieces next to him.
No,
he's sitting on it right now.
Sitting on it the whole time.
The rest of it's in the bathroom. But it's got a really nice plunger. It's got the kind where it just comes straight up and down,
Right.
As opposed to like the little flap.
You got the Euro floater.
Yeah. The problem is like when you push down the hand, like the handle always gets bent and it breaks and all that. I've gone through like 4 different things. So I started drilling a hole in the top.
Right.
And then I can just run a chain down through the hole directly on the thing, put a little thing on top, pull it up, drop it. It'll flush. No problem.
No problem, right?
But it's really hard to drill through ceramic. This is probably 1.5 inches thick, too.
Mm-hmm.
So and the drill bit gets hot. You can only drill for about a minute, and then it gets real hot.
Yeah.
So about every 20, 25 minutes for about 60 seconds, and then it goes quiet for a while. So
but everybody's used to that sound coming out of your bathroom.
So the other night, my wife comes up and she like knocks on the door and she peeks her head in, and I've been doing this the whole afternoon. I've been drilling the thing for like 2 days on and off.
Yeah.
And she peeks her head in and she's like, I'm afraid to look. She had no idea what I was doing. And I was like, what do you mean? She goes, all that drilling. I go, no, it's just one hole. I'm just drilling one
why
hole.
don't you just replace the floater so you don't have to jerry rig?
No, it's not the floater. It lifts up and then the water runs down.
Mm-hmm.
And then it closes again.
It's the flapper.
Yeah, but instead of a flapper on the bottom of the tank, it's like looks like a little water tower.
Oh, it's one of those. Yeah, right. Exactly.
And it works great. The gasket is great. It goes up, it goes down. But the handle that connects to the thing
Flusher.
that you push down, I always have to jury rig it and bend it, and the chain always.
So you need a new handle.
No, I've replaced the handle part like 4 times. So I'm not doing that anymore.
You're basically making your own mechanism inside.
What brand of toy? I bet this is a Kohler.
No, it's an American Standard.
American Standard. Oh, there you go.
But anyway, so I'm gonna take this chain,
ceiling
fan chain, and run that through the hole, and then all I have to do, I could put a little figurine or something on top, lift it up, it pulls the thing up, let it go, it drops.
Right.
And that's it.
There are mechanisms that do that right to the top of the toilet. You just
this toilet is not designed for that, which is
so
weird.
You're making your own mechanism.
The inside is designed that way, but the handle is so anyway.
Well, there you
sounds like you'll be getting a new toilet by this time next year.
Not if he fixes it. It'll be fine.
No, I already replaced this.
Well, you're not fixing it. You're redesigning it.
I'm just reattaching I'm changing the flush mode.
All right.
The flush mechanism.
On that flush mode,
mm-hmm.
we'll wrap the show up for today. On that one, we want to thank everybody for watching, and for those of you just listening to the audio podcast, thanks for listening.
Been circling the drain for an hour and a half.
Don't forget to visit our website, www.getonwithitpodcast.com. That's getonwithitpodcast.com. And please remember, like us and follow us on all of our social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Just search for the Get On With It podcast. And of course, all of our shows are available on YouTube on the Logger Room channel as well. Remember, we go live with the video podcast on both Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night around 7:30 Eastern Time. For those of you who just want to listen to the audio podcast, you can do so on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music Podcasts, and iHeartRadio as well. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to one or more of those feeds, and you'll never miss a show. Again, thanks for following along with us. Have a great rest of your week. Have a wonderful weekend. And we watch a lot of playoff football this weekend. And we will talk to you soon. Take care, folks. Cheers.
Ciao.
This is my Punisher lamp.
That's your Punisher lamp. There you go.
Goes well with your toilet.
I like it.
Maybe I'll use this as the plunger.
There you go.
There
Isn't
you
that
go.
the name of your toilet? The Punisher.
The Punisher.
No, that's whatever.
There you
I'm not going to say anymore.
go. All right.
I am.
Tune in next week to find out what the
I
name
am
of the
the
toilet
Punisher.
is.
You've been wrecking toilets your whole life. Well, you need the Punisher. Designed by RadioPete with a pre-drilled hole so you can add your own chain. The Punisher comes in bone, white, and teal.
There you go.
Designed by and for large men.
There you go. All right, folks. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you soon. Take care. Cheers.
Bye.